Chapter 1817. The Kuan fish's defense was strong. It did not disappoint Uncle Lee and Lu Li. The attacks from a more than 30-second tribulation heaven gods could not inflict much harm on the Kuan fish. Even though the Kuan fish's skin was torn and blood was gushing out, it was not a serious injury. The only thing that hurt the Kuan fish was Yin Hong's attack. Yin Hong's attack seemed to be a simple one. The spear turned into a beam of light and pierced through the Kuan fish from head to tail. Fortunately, the Kuan fish dodged out of instinct. It turned its head slightly, so its soul was not pierced. Woo-woo, the Kuan fish let out a cry that sounded like ghosts crying and wolves howling. The beast nature of the Kuan fish was triggered after the injury. Its roar made the water tumble. The Kuan fish spat out some blue liquid and sprayed it forward. This liquid was the liquid in its esophagus. This liquid had a strong corrosive effect, and because of its strong stickiness, it would greatly reduce a person's speed. Since the Kuan fish was spitting out the liquid quickly and in large quantities, Yin Hong and the others could not dodge and were enveloped by it. Swish! The Kuan fish swung its huge tail and smashed at them like a mountain. Yin Hong and the warriors were smashed away. Yin Hong fared better. He was wearing the primordial spirit armor, so he was unharmed. The other warriors were worse off. They were all bleeding. Little Six, tell the Kuan fish to stop fighting. Let's go to the island. Lu Li ordered at once. He had a good grasp of opportunities. Even though the Kuan fish wanted to tear everyone in front of it apart, it sensed that Yin Hong was in danger. After Little Six gave the order, the Kuan fish swung its tail and dashed toward the island. They were close to the island. Given the Kuan fish's current speed, it could reach the island in an hour at most. Seeing the Kuan fish dashing away, Yin Hong yelled, "Stop the Kuan fish!" Countless scouts lurking nearby swarmed over, releasing all kinds of strange divine abilities and mystic arts. Some scouts even used their own bodies to form a human wall, trying to stop the Kuan fish. Bang, bang, bang. Many attacks landed on the Kuan fish. The Kuan fish was already badly mutilated, and now it was in a worse state. But to the Kuan fish, this injury was nothing. Previously, when Lu Li used the worms of the void to bite holes in the Kuan fish could recover quickly. Therefore, the attacks of these scouts were like tickles to the Kuan fish. The Kuan fish charged forward, and the scouts in front could not withstand its charge at all. They were easily sent flying, and the Kuan fish shot forward like a sharp arrow. All of you are trash. Yin Hong was furious. More than 30 martial artists and 1,000 scouts couldn't stop the Kuan fish. The spear in his hand lit up. He wanted to continue attacking, but he quickly changed his mind. The Kuan fish's body was too big. Even 100 stabs might not be able to kill it. Buzz! Yin Hong switched to soul attacks. 2 beams of golden light shot out from his eyes and entered the Kuan fish's body. His soul attack was very special. The 2 beams of golden light swam inside the Kuan fish's body like 2 golden dragons, rushing towards the Kuan fish's soul. Soul attack. Uncle Lee sensed it and stared at the 2 golden energies nervously. The strongest thing about the Kuan fish was its defense, but Uncle Lee did not know how strong its soul defense was. The 2 beams of golden energy surged into the Kuan fish's brain. The Kuan fish trembled and then stopped. Lu Li and Uncle Lee looked at each other. Both of them were frightened. Yin Hong's soul attack was effective on the Kuan fish, which meant that the Kuan fish could not run away. What awaited them was Yin Hong's merciless killing. Nice! Yin Hong was overjoyed. He didn't expect the soul attack to kill the Kuan fish directly. As long as it was slowed down, the rest would be easy. Given Lu Li and Uncle Lee's speed, they would not be able to run away. Whoosh! Just as Yin Hong flew over, the Kuan fish waved its tail and moved again. Yin Hong was enraged. Just now, he stopped for the time for 1 breath. Otherwise, he would have reached the Kuan fish by now. Buzzing! Another 2 beams of golden light came out from his eyes. His soul attack could only affect the Kuan fish for 1 breath. But it was enough. For a powerful warrior like him, 1 breath was enough to change the outcome. What should we do? Uncle Lee and Lu Li were burning with anxiety. Yin Hong's soul attack could affect the Kuan fish. At this rate, the Kuan fish would be killed by Yin Hong, and then Uncle Li and Uncle Li. I will go. A glint of determination rose in Lu Li's eyes. He flew out from the mountain and told Little Six to send a message to the Kuan fish. The Kuan fish's stomach surged and spat Lu Li out. However, Lu Li stopped in the mouth of the Kuan fish. At the same time, the worms of the void inside the Kuan fish's head moved and bit a hole in the Kuan fish's head. Lu Li dashed into the Kuan fish's soul. Whoosh! As soon as Lu Li dashed in, 2 streaks of golden energy came at him like 2 golden dragons. Lu Li flew toward the golden energy and channeled all of it into his body. Dragon soul, hang on! Lu Li yelled. He had suffered from Yin Hong's spiritual attack before, but that was done by Yin Hong's avatar. This soul attack was Yin Hong's most powerful one. It was 100 times more powerful. Buzzing, the dragon's soul glowed at once and wandered around in Lu Li's soul. The 2 golden dragons entered Lu Li's soul, and the dragon's soul began to devour. Okay, Lu Li was relieved to see that the 2 golden dragons were being devoured by the dragon's soul. He had gambled with his life. If the dragon's soul could not stop it, then his soul would be destroyed in an instant. Kuan fish, let's go! Lu Li yelled. He stayed still in the Kuan fish's soul. The Kuan fish was bitten by the worms of the void. It rolled around in pain. Receiving Lu Li's order, the Kuan fish dashed toward the island. Swish! Yin Hong caught up with the Kuan fish and stabbed at it. The Kuan fish twisted its head. Even though the Kuan fish's body was penetrated every time, its soul was not hit. What is going on? Yin Hong chased after the Kuan fish, shooting out golden energy from his eyes. But the Kuan fish did not stop. Lu Li had stopped every time. Because of Yin Hong's stab, the Kuan fish sensed the danger. Therefore, it dashed toward the island. Closer, closer. Uncle Li had noticed the island in the distance with psychic power. He also noticed a team of patrolling warriors. They must have noticed something was wrong and were on guard. Master, get ready to go to the island. Uncle Li told Lu Li. Lu Li checked with psychic power and was delighted. He did not go out at once. Instead, he waited quietly. Little Six, fly the mountain out. When they were 30 miles away from the island, Lu Li told Little Six, and Little Six told the Kuan fish to run for his life. Whoosh! At the same time, Lu Li told the worms of the void to bite a hole in the Kuan fish's head. Together with the worms of the void, Lu Li dashed into the Kuan fish's mouth. Coincidentally, the mountain flew out. Lu Li put away the mountain and the worms of the void and asked Little Six to tell the Kuan fish to spit him out. Phew! Chapter 18:18. Whoosh! The warriors on the island came to their senses soon. 2 of them came to Lu Li's side and put their sabers against Lu Li's head. Lu Li did not move. He said with sincerity, "Guys, I am here to join the Omen Island. I am willing to follow the Asmodean Lord." This was what Uncle Li told Lu Li. To enter the Omen Island, one must join the Omen Island. Anyone that joined the Omen Island will be marked with the mark of the Omen Island. In the future, even if they were to leave the Omen Island, the 36 forces would not take them in. Therefore, if Lu Li shouted in public, the warriors of the Omen Island would not make things difficult for him. As expected, the 2 warriors of the Omen Island put away their sabers at once. But one of them looked at Lu Li's wicked bead. Lu Li took out the sacred mountain at once. Uncle Li came out and shouted, "I am Li Tian, the former leader of the Hall of Black Flames. From today on, I will leave the Hall of Black Flames and join the Omen Island. I will follow the Asmodean Lord forever." The 2 warriors nodded. They turned to the outside of the island because Yin Hong had come out with more than 30 warriors. Yin Hong stared at Lu Li with overflowing killing intent. The sharp murderous intent spread over. Lu Li felt pressured even though he was so far away. "Don't move." Uncle Li waved his hand and said in a low voice. There was a powerful warrior among the warriors who should not be weaker than Yin Hong. Lu Li and Yin Hong only had 40 or 50 warriors. Yin Hong did not have the courage to kill his way into the island. Lu Li turned to a powerful warrior in general armor. He was a strong middle-aged man with a mustache. He carried an axe on his shoulder and looked at Yin Hong in a lazy manner. He squinted at Yin Hong without saying anything. "Patriarch Yin, what should we do?" All the warriors of the Hall of Warfare from the Hall of Black Flames gathered around. One of them asked in a low voice. That warrior looked at Lu Li from the distance and made a gesture of killing. His intention was clear. Yin Hong should lead the warriors and fight for a while. As long as they could kill Lu Li, they could run away at once. Not even the warriors of the Omen Island could do anything to them. Yin Hong was struggling. Lu Li was right in front of him. He could lead the more than 30 warriors to fight for a while. If he could seize the chance, he could kill Lu Li in an instant. The problem was that this was Heavenly Devil Island, and there was a great Devil King on the island. This great Devil King was one of the strongest experts in the second celestial layer. If he angered the great Demon King, he would definitely not be able to escape back to the Black Flame Hall. Besides, the black-bearded man on the island was clearly not someone to be trifled with. Judging from his aura, he should also be a third tribulation heavenly god. He was not completely confident that he could suppress this person. Whoosh! The Kuan fish swung its tail and dashed into the water from the other side. Yin Hong and the others did not stop it. Killing a beast of primordial chaos was meaningless. Lu Li was the key. "Are you Yin Hong?" When the black-bearded man saw Yin Hong's eyes flickering and him standing motionlessly on the sea for a long time, he said with a hint of mockery, "Do you want to chase after these two or not?" If they wanted to chase after him, they could just get on the island. If they didn't want to chase after him, they could just retreat. What was the point of standing here? Don't waste everyone's time. A glint of coldness rose in Yin Hong's eyes. He still didn't move. After the time for a few breaths, he cupped his fists and said, "My friend, one of them is a traitor of the Black Flame Hall, and the other killed my son. Our Grandmaster has ordered that they must be killed. Can you do me a favor? If you can help me, I will repay you later." Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. Uncle Li waved his hand and said nothing. He was confident. "I cannot help you with this." The black-bearded man did not disappoint Uncle Li. He shrugged and said, "If you want us to do you a favor, you will have to go to the Devil King. We cannot disobey the Devil King's rules. How about I send you to the palace of Asmodean, and you can go and meet the Devil King?" Yin Hong and the others were displeased. The Devil King was not on good terms with the 36 forces. He was known for being unruly and would not show any respect to anyone. Yin Hong going to the palace of Asmodean, he would be carried out as a dead body. "My friend," Yin Hong said with patience, "then how can you let us go in and kill these two? Can you state your terms?" "First of all, I am not your friend," the black-bearded man said with a smile. "Secondly, since these two joined the Omen Island willingly, they are our people. Therefore, if you want to kill them, the only way is to rush in and kill us or go past us and kill them by force." Yin Hong said nothing again. After a while, the black-bearded man said impatiently, "Yin Hong, you are the most powerful warrior at the second heaven. How can you be so cowardly? You are acting like a woman. Come on, my axe is thirsting for blood. Come in and fight. If you can beat me, you could do whatever you want. If you still don't move, I'll let the two of them enter the island." The more relaxed the black-bearded man was, the more uncertain Yin Hong was. It was said that warriors of the Omen Island were all crazy. Also, none of the powerful warriors of the Omen Island were on the celestial god list. Nobody knew their real abilities. What if he could not kill this man and Lu Li? He would be hunted down by the Omen Island. The rules of the Omen Island were clear. If warriors of the 36 forces stepped onto the Omen Island and refused to join the Omen Island, they would be killed without mercy. "Fight!" A glint of determination rose in Yin Hong's eyes. If he could not kill Lu Li, it was highly likely that he would be killed when he returned to the Hall of Black Flames. He might as well take the risk. What if he could kill Lu Li and escape successfully? "Charge!" Yin Hong shouted. Golden rays of light shot out from his eyes. He locked onto the black-bearded man and released more than a dozen soul attacks. At the same time, he dashed over and drew an arc in the air. His spear glared. He only hoped that he could kill Lu Li in one move. Uh-huh. The black-bearded man laughed. He swung the axe in his hand. The sky changed color. The wind howled, pierced through gold and cracked stones. Space trembled. A huge illusion of an axe condensed in midair, and without any warning, chopped down on Yin Hong's head. Bang! Yin Hong was smashed away. He spat out blood in midair. His face was a bloody mess. There was the Chaos Heaven armor on his head, but his head was almost smashed. Swish! The black-bearded man swung his axe again. A shadow of an axe appeared on the left side of the sky. This time, half of the more than 30 warriors of the Hall of Warfare were cut in half. It was as easy as cutting chives. Axe Demon, run! Yin Hong's frightened voice resounded. His body turned into a rainbow light and shot out like a sharp arrow. He even rushed into the sea and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! The rest of the warriors of the Hall of Warfare of the Hall of Black Flames ran away and disappeared into the sea. The black-bearded man didn't give the order to chase after them. The others didn't even attack. They just quietly watched the black-bearded man's performance. Axe Demon, Uncle Lee's eyes glowed. He was excited. He knew this man was a powerful warrior, but he didn't expect him to be one of the 10 assassin generals of the Demon King. Years ago, the Demon King and the 10 assassin generals crushed 3 super forces. The Demon King and the 10 assassin generals were famous in the Second Heaven. But Uncle Lee had only heard of the name of Axe Demon. Today, he finally saw him in person. Li Tian greets Lord Axe Demon. Thank you for saving my life. Li Tian bowed with sincerity. Lu Li came to his senses. He bowed as well and said, Thank you for saving my life, Lord. Chapter 1819. Lu Li blinked in confusion. Li Tian thought about it and explained in a low voice, There are 3 ways to join the Omen Island. The first way is to become an island warrior. The second way is to get an islander badge. But everyone has to hand over 100 pieces of divine origin gold. With the badge, you will be protected by the island warrior. You will be safer on the island. The third way is to become an average islander. Apart from the island warrior, anyone on the island can harm you. Lu Li understood as soon as Li Tian explained. But he had one question: what is divine origin gold? Li Tian said, It is made from divine sources. 1 piece of divine origin gold is equal to 10 billion divine sources. What? Lu Li touched his nose in embarrassment. He had many divine sources, but 100 pieces of divine origin gold was equivalent to 10 billion divine sources. How could he afford that? If he had known that he would need divine sources at the Second Heaven, he could have gotten more at the land of Yuyan. He asked in embarrassment, Li Tian, do you have 200 pieces of divine origin gold? I only have 10 billion divine sources. No. Li Tian was embarrassed as well. He said, I have given all my divine sources to the Hall of Black Flame and traded them for a chaos treasure not long ago. I only have 1 billion divine sources left. All right, since you don't have any divine origin gold, I don't think you want to join the island warrior. Good luck. Axe Demon waved his hand and led his team away lazily. Li Tian brought Lu Li into the island at once. They were still at the edge of the island. If Yin Hong came back, they would be killed in an instant. Uncle Li and Lu Li strode on for tens of thousands of miles before they entered a mountain. Uncle Li and Lu Li felt relieved. They looked at each other and smiled as if they had just survived a disaster. They were alive. They made it to the Omen Island. Li Tian thought he was doomed. Before Lu Li could control the Koan fish, he didn't think he could make it to the Omen Island alive either. Even though it was not completely safe on the island, they were happy that they could make it. Lu Li went into a small cave. He decided to take a rest here and, at the same time, ask about the Omen Island and figure out what to do next. Do you know the situation on the Heavenly Devil Island? Lu Li asked. Li Tian thought about it and said, Some, but not all. As a matter of fact, the outside world doesn't know much about the Omen Island because the scouts of the major forces don't dare to come in. It can't be right. Lu Li could not figure it out. The 36 forces could have sent some secret agents to the Omen Island to gather information before sending it out. If the two of them could easily join Heavenly Devil Island, then it would be even easier for small cultivators to join. After they had investigated the situation clearly, they could leave Heavenly Devil Island. They could even hide on the island forever. It's not that we can't find out what's going on. We just don't want to offend the great Demon King. Uncle Lee forced a smile and said, "The great demon monarch is very famous in the second heavenly layer. She rarely takes the initiative to provoke others, but anyone who has offended her is now dead. Among them, one of the 36 major factions, the Purple Sun Palace, have been annihilated by her and the 10 slaughter generals. Therefore, unless there are special circumstances, no major forces are willing to offend the great Demon King. Naturally, they won't send scouts to investigate." Luli was surprised and asked, "The great Demon King is a woman." "Yes, and she's a very beautiful, and dangerous lady." Uncle Lee nodded and said, "She is the dream girl of many powerful warriors. Many people set conquering her as their life goal. Back in the days, the master of the palace of Ziyang lusted after her beauty and flirted with the great Demon King, which led to the destruction of the palace of Ziyang." Luli was taken aback. The possibility of a woman becoming a powerful warrior was very low. In the entire divinity, Ling Qingyin and the master of the craftsman's sect were the only two female powerful warriors. The most important thing was that the nickname of the great Demon King gave people the impression that she was a fiendish monster. Luli didn't expect that she was a stunning beauty. The Omen Island is huge. It is a heavenly island. Uncle Lee told Luli what he knew. This island is about 10 times the size of the land of Yuyan. There are many caves and mountains on the island, but they are all occupied by powerful warriors. There are only 3 cities on the island. To enter the cities, you need divine origin gold. To live in the cities, you need a large amount of divine origin gold. Apart from the cities, no other place is safe. Of course, if you have an islander badge, you'll be safer. The island guards will patrol the island from time to time. Anyone who dares to kill an islander will be hunted down by the island guards. Uncle Lee told Luli everything he knew. Luli became more and more worried. The Omen Island was another land of Yuyan, and it was more dangerous than the land of Yuyan. Especially since they didn't have an islander badge, it would be even more dangerous. Even if someone wanted to kill them in front of the island guards, because they were not islander, the island guards would not do anything and watch them be killed. Nowhere on the Omen Island was safe unless they could enter the 3 cities. But in the cities, they had a hand in a piece of divine origin gold every day. Luli and Uncle Lee combined the amount of divine origin. They could only go into the cities to have a look. They couldn't even spend the night there. According to Uncle Lee, there were tens of millions of warriors on the Omen Island. Most of them were hiding in some caves and mountains to cultivate. Some of them were patrolling around, looking for lone warriors to rob and kill. At first glance, Luli and Uncle Lee were like lambs that could be easily targeted by others. What was more, Uncle Lee said, Yin Hong would not let this go. He would bribe some powerful warriors to go to the Omen Island to hunt Luli and Luli down. As long as the reward was offered, powerful warriors from small forces nearby would be happy to go to the Omen Island. Danger lurked everywhere. I have to think of a way to get into the cities. Luli sighed. Only in the cities could he be completely safe. Only in this way could he cultivate in peace and improve his abilities. Luli was still too weak. Uncle Lee's primordial treasure was given to Ling Qingyin by Luli. Uncle Lee's abilities have been reduced as well. Master, how about we go and join the island guards? Uncle Lee thought of an idea. He said, as long as we join the island guards, we will be completely safe. Nobody will dare to do anything to us, even if Yin Hong offers us a huge reward. The devil of the island guards will be furious. None of us will be able to survive. Are there any conditions to join the island guards? What we have to pay? Luli asked after some thoughts. Nothing. Uncle Lee explained. All of our abilities can join the island guards. But once we join, we cannot leave at will. We must serve for 100,000 years before we can quit. Otherwise, we will be regarded as traitors and we will be hunted down mercilessly. So far, I haven't heard of anyone daring to run away. 100,000 years. Lu Li was speechless. Even 1,000 years was a long time for him, let alone 100,000 years. To be trapped in the island for 100,000 years? He would rather die than live like that. Let's go, let's go. Chapter 1820. Lu Li and Uncle Li hurried on. They didn't dare to go too fast. They kept checking with psychic power, like two thieves sneaking into a village in the middle of the night. They ran for thousands of miles without running into anyone. Maybe it was because there weren't many people around the island. The two of them ran all the way inside. They didn't know where they were going, so they randomly chose a route to go forward. Lu Li was at a loss. He came to the second heaven because he wanted to protect his family and friends. Uncle Li told him that they could survive on the Omen Island. Both of them had a goal and a direction. Now that they were at the Omen Island, they were lost. They didn't know what to do next. Uncle Li was better. He had lived for many years, and he had been muddling along. He could settle down anywhere. As long as he could survive, settle down, and bring his daughter back, Uncle Li would be satisfied. But Lu Li was different. He wasn't going to sit around and wait for death. He was still young and full of drive. He didn't want to be muddle-headed. He wanted to find a way to become stronger. Even if he couldn't destroy the Black Flame Hall, he could at least make the Black Flame Hall not dare to oppose him, just like the great Demon King. Then, he could return to the divine world and live a comfortable life. I need to become stronger and have absolute abilities. If I can become a 3-tribulation heaven god and be as strong as the Lord of Black Flame, then all my problems will be solved. On the way, Lu Li was lost in thoughts. An hour later, he turned to Uncle Li and asked, Li Tian, how can I grow stronger quickly after I become a 2nd tribulation divine god? What is the direction of cultivation? Lu Li's question was complicated. Uncle Li was not much stronger than Lu Li, but he had lived longer than Lu Li. He had been at the second heaven and had seen a lot. After a while, Uncle Li said, let's talk about the direction of cultivation first. The ultimate goal of cultivation is to go through more heavenly tribulations. As long as you can go through one heavenly tribulation after another, your abilities will soar and become stronger. Powerful 2nd tribulation heaven gods can kill average 3 tribulation heaven gods, but they are rare. Every time you go through a heavenly tribulation, your abilities in all aspects will be improved by leaps and bounds. You must know that. Yes, Lu Li felt it deeply. He had gone through one heaven's tribulation, and his abilities were much stronger than before. At the very least, his physical defense had been improved by many times. If I want to survive the heavenly tribulation, my foundation must not be weak. Uncle Li continued, the basics include the body, soul, and divine power. This was the foundation of a martial artist. None of these 3 aspects could be weak. This was the most fundamental thing. After the 2nd heavenly tribulation, the number of heavenly tribulations will gradually increase. For the 2nd heavenly tribulation, you will need to overcome 4 heavenly tribulations. For the 3rd heavenly tribulation, you will need to overcome 5 heavenly tribulations, and so on. The 2nd heavenly tribulation has an additional test regarding the profundities of the laws. It's called the Dharmic Tao tribulation. If you don't comprehend a powerful law's profound meaning, you will die miserably. However, Master, you don't have to think so much for now. Your divine power and soul spirit are definitely not at the stage of the 2nd heavenly tribulation. Your physical body is very strong, and you have passed. Master's current cultivation is still focused on cultivating his divine power, soul, and physical body. Of course, it will be good if he could continue to improve his physical body. At your current realm, it will be difficult for you to improve your divine power and soul quickly unless you can go to places of treasures like the Primordial Secret Realm or the Primordial Secret Realm. Lu Li was curious. He asked, what is the Primordial Secret Realm? That is the best place for cultivation. Uncle Li's eyes glowed with hope. In our world, there are some miraculous places where the Xian Qi in heaven and earth is so rich that it can be liquefied. You don't have to cultivate there. Just breathing there can increase your divine power. When you cultivate there, your soul will grow quickly. There are many marks of great Tao that explain the laws of heaven and earth. It is easier to learn laws and principles in those places. In short, those places are the best for cultivators. If you can go there once, your abilities will improve by leaps and bounds. That amazing! Luli was even more curious. Li Tian, have you been to the primordial secret realm? How can I be so lucky? Uncle Li forced a smile. I don't even have the right to go to the lowest level, the primordial secret realm and the primordial secret realm. There is no primordial secret realm on the second plane. There is only one primordial secret realm and 3 primordial secret realms. The 3 primordial secret realms are occupied by the 36 forces. As for the primordial secret realm, it is sealed. It opens once every 100 years. Only 30 people are allowed to go in each time. Those who are older are not allowed to enter. Every time, only the monstrous geniuses of the younger generation can enter. Not to mention me. Even Yin Hong doesn't have the qualifications to enter. Why is it sealed? Luli could not figure it out. Wouldn't it create more powerful warriors by letting more warriors in? Also, why couldn't the older ones go in? Wouldn't it be faster for the powerful ones to go in? Because the older ones would be too slow to progress. It would be a waste of opportunities. Uncle Lee explained, the younger one is the faster he can progress. The more potential he has in the future. Leaders of the 36 forces and many powerful warriors on the top 100 of the celestial god list have gone in when they were young. As for why it is sealed, it is because they don't want to consume too much of the spiritual energy in the primordial secret realm. The primordial secret realm is a treasure of the second plane. Destroying it would be a great loss to the second plane. Therefore, 1,000,000 years ago, the forces set the rule. The primordial secret realm is open once every 100 years, and only 30 young people can go in. They can only cultivate in there for 1 year. Luli was still confused. He asked, there's so many forces. How do they choose the 30? The 36 forces take turns? No. Uncle Lee waved his hand. Not only the 36 forces, but all the young warriors of the second plane have the chance to enter the primordial secret realm, including you. If you want to go to the primordial secret realm, you must compete. Every time before the primordial secret realm is opened, there will be a contest of geniuses. Only warriors under 1,000 years old can compete. The top 30 can go to the primordial secret realm to cultivate. Young people under 1,000 years old. Luli was speechless. For the mortal world, a warrior of 1,000 years would be considered a very old man. But in the second plane, warriors were young. That being said, warriors of the second plane were strong and had endless life. 1,000 years was just a blink of an eye for them. Master, work hard. Uncle Lee encouraged, Master, you are so young. The next primordial secret realm will be opened in 8 years. If you can be more powerful than me now, maybe you can make it to the top 30. Then you will have the chance to go to the primordial secret realm. Me? Luli forced a smile. He was being hunted down by the Hall of Black Flames. If he dared to leave the Omen Island, he would be killed right away. That was something that was far away. He should focus on how to survive on the Omen Island. Buzzing, while they were talking, a breeze suddenly blew over from the front and swept over Luli and Uncle Lee. Chapter 1821. This man's psychic power was strong. Luli could not tell where he was, but Uncle Lee did. This person was sitting cross-legged at the bottom of the small mountain in front of them, cultivating. Maybe Luli and Uncle Lee's passing by alerted him, and he was disturbed, which was why he wanted to kill Luli. Uncle Lee stopped. He already had the heavy sword in his hand. He looked at Luli and winked at him, telling him to get ready for battle. Luli took out the saber in his left hand and the mountain in his right. He was ready with both hands. He was a little nervous because he didn't know what level the enemy who was investigating them was at. Here he is. Charge! Uncle Lee suddenly shouted. At the same time, Luli felt the ground under his feet was shaking. He checked with psychic power and saw a sword coming at him at a horrifying speed. Whoosh! Luli leaped up and swung his saber down. This time, he released the Slayer's ghost cut and used the force in heaven and earth. Luli did not hope to kill this man. He only hoped that the force in heaven and earth could affect this man and help Uncle Lee. Boom! After Lu Li's attack, Uncle Lee rushed into the ground and hacked at the warriors coming up from below with his heavy sword. That warrior was slowed down a bit. That being said, his expressions did not change. He swung his sword and Uncle Lee's sword for hundreds of moves. Clank, 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 muffled noises were heard. The ground was peeled off layer by layer. Soon, a huge pit appeared. Dust billowed, covering the sky and the earth. The murderous intent spread out, making the space even more suffocating. Buzzing, Lu Li went into the mountain without hesitation. He made the mountain as small as a speck of dust. He flew the mountain toward that warrior. What? Uncle Lee did not know why Lu Li was doing this. But Lu Li must have his reasons. Uncle Lee could not say much. He had to keep on attacking to keep the powerful warrior from underground at bay. Uncle Lee knew very well that this warrior was more powerful than him. At the beginning, Uncle Lee had the upper hand. Therefore, they were evenly matched. Once the warrior caught his breath, Uncle Lee would be at a disadvantage. Lu Li flew the mountain over. That warrior did not mind. As far as he was concerned, Lu Li was too weak. He could kill Lu Li in one move, even if he were to sneak up on Lu Li. Li Tian stepped back. When the mountain came down, Lu Li suddenly shouted. When Uncle Lee heard the voice, he immediately retreated without any hesitation. Light flashed within the God Mountain, and then a sky full of bugs flew out. Because there were too many of them, they were also very fast. That warrior wanted to kill Lu Li in one move, so he never thought about running away. Naturally, he was enveloped by the worms of the void. The void worm turned into a shadow and entered the warrior's body. The warrior's expression changed. He raised the sword in his hand and slashed at the God Mountain. Although the divine mountain had shrunk to the size of a thumb, it was still accurately struck and sent flying. Uncle Lee, I'll leave it to you, Lu Li said. He did not dare to let the mountain fight head-on anymore. He released several 100 million void worms, and half of them entered this martial artist's body. Even if they couldn't bite him to death, they could still affect him somewhat. Whoosh! What surprised Lu Li was that the man suddenly jumped down and moved quickly underground. Before Uncle Lee could attack, he had run away. Uncle Lee wanted to go after him, but on second thoughts, he decided not to. They were unfamiliar with the place and people. The first thing they wanted to do was to settle down here, not to loot and kill. Let's go. He waved his hand to Lu Li. Lu Li dashed out from the God Mountain, put it away, and ran away with Uncle Lee. While running, Uncle Lee asked, "Those worms of yours are good. When we run into enemies, we can use them to help." Okay. Lu Li realized that the worms of the void were powerful. As long as they could enter a warrior's body, the rest would be easy. The only drawback was that compared to warriors at the second plane, the worms of the void were too slow. But since Li Tian was the main attacker, Lu Li had a chance. Usually, enemies would not pay attention to him. After all, he was too weak. As long as he could get close to enemies, he would have the chance to release the worms of the void. Right, Li Tian? Lu Li thought of something and asked, "Is there a way to evolve the worms of the void? If so, then we won't have to be afraid of average second tribulation gods. The worms can split, and there are endless numbers." Li Tian knew something about the worms of the void, but he didn't know that they could split endlessly. Li Tian frowned and said, "I don't know much about insects and bewitching insects. There's a force at the second plane that is good at this. But insects and bewitching insects can be bred. We can figure something out later." Oh, Lu Li was disappointed. Thousands of miles later, he flew to a mountain. He stopped and said, "Uncle Lee, we should find a warrior of the Omen Island and ask about the Omen Island. We can't just wander around aimlessly. What if we run into a team of powerful warriors? We won't even be able to run away." Sure, Uncle Lee was worried as well. Neither of them were particularly fast. Once they ran into powerful enemies, they would not be able to run away. Lu Li thought about it and said, "How about we find a mountain to hide in, and I will build some formations to hide our energy and energy." "Master, you know how to build formations? Is the spell formation set up strong?" Uncle Lee was surprised. It would take a long time to study formations. Lu Li had just ascended to the immortal world. Theoretically speaking, even if he could build formations, it wouldn't be strong. It's okay. Lu Li said casually, my skills are not as good as those of the second realm, but I think I am one of the best in the divinity. Best? Uncle Li was shocked. He looked at Lu Li as if he was a freak. Soon, Uncle Li became excited. He looked around and said, I don't think we should pick a better place. Let's go to that mountain. It is so tall and eye-catching. We will build formations in there. Sure. Lu Li flew up and soon arrived at the mountain. They checked around to make sure that there was nobody in there. Lu Li found a small cave. He took out his weapons and started digging. They went to the center of the mountain. Then, Lu Li got to work. He didn't build formations of destruction or confusion. Instead, he built a formation of illusion and a formation to seal off space. In this way, people from the outside would not be able to detect their energy if they were not careful enough. For hours later, Lu Li was done. Uncle Li flew over, checked with psychic power, and was full of praises. Lu Li's skills in building formations were not good at the second realm. That being said, it was already commendable that he could do this. Average second tribulation heaven gods would not be able to detect Lu Li and Lu Li without careful inspection. Chapter 1822. While Lu Li and Uncle Li were waiting at the Omen Island, the divinity and the land of Yuyan were bustling with noise and excitement. Almost all the powerful warriors of the land of Yuyan were here in the city of King of Yen. The city had been renovated and the atmosphere was joyous. 100,000 people gathered in the plaza. They stood in line, waiting quietly. Ling Qingyan stood in front of a huge teleportation formation in the plaza. She said nothing. Nobody in the plaza dared to say a word. Everyone was waiting quietly. As a matter of fact, many people were wondering why Ling Qingyan had gathered them here. With such a large force, could it be that a celestial Layer 2 expert had descended? Or was it to welcome Lu Li's return? Lu Li had been missing for a long time. Nobody knew where he had gone. Some people suspected that Lu Li was recovering in a place because he was badly injured. It was highly possible that Ling Qingyan had made such a big scene to welcome Lu Li. Buzzing an hour later, the huge teleportation formation in the middle finally glowed. Everyone's attention was on the teleportation formation, waiting for the arrival of Lu Li or the mysterious warrior. The teleportation formation glowed for a long time. After an hour, the glow died down. More than a dozen people showed up in the teleportation formation. The leader was familiar. It was Pan Yuqin, the new Pan King. But the rest of the people didn't recognize a single one of them. After everyone glanced at them, their faces were filled with bewilderment. That was because all of them were not divine spirits. They were mortals. What? The more than a dozen people were scared as well. They had been teleporting for a long time. They were in a daze. When they finally came to their senses, they saw that they were surrounded by 100,000 people. The 100,000 people all had horrifying energy. They were all immortals. Many immortals were so powerful that they could hardly breathe. Ling Qingyan smiled. She raised her hand. The 100,000 people came back to their senses. They dropped to one knee and shouted, "Welcome, my lords!" The 100,000 people shouted at the same time. Their voices echoed in the clouds. The 100,000 people were embarrassed. After all, they were all immortals. Many of them were mighty warriors in the divinity, and some of them were super mighty warriors. But now, they were addressing more than a dozen mortals as lords. It was as if a group of adults were kneeling to some kids. But Ling Qingyan had given the order that they must be greeted with the highest standard. They had no choice but to kneel. Many people's eyes flickered as they tried to guess the identities of these people. Without a special identity, how could Ling Qingyan give such a high-standard welcome ceremony? I am Ling Qingyan, the Prince of Yen. Nice to meet you all. Ling Qingyan took a step forward, bowed, and said, I am Lu Li's friend. These three must be Lu Li's great-grandpa, grandpa and father? The three Ling Qingyan was looking at were Patriarch of Law Enforcement, Lu Xingyang, and Lu Renwang. Lu Xingyang was a bit nervous. Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Lu Renwang on the other hand, were calmer. The patriarch of law enforcement said, "I am Lu Suiying. Greetings, Prince of Yin." Ling Qingyan nodded. She walked over, held the hands of Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue and by Xia Shuang, and said, "You must be Lu Li's wives. Lu Li told us about you guys." Jiang Qiling nodded with a smile and said, "Nice to meet you, Sister Ling. Let's head into the castle first. We'll talk about this later." Ling Qingyan looked around with a smile and said, "Listen up. These are Lu Li's family and friends. From now on, they will be my family. Anyone who dares to disrespect them will be killed on the spot. Lord Lu's family is our family. We will not let go of anyone who dares to offend us." A super almighty from the immortal world roared, and the others followed suit. Everyone's expressions became respectful. Who was Lu Li? He was the supreme being in the divinity. He was the savior of the divinity. Who would dare to offend his family? Not to mention Ling Qingyan, no one here would let him go. Jiangwuwa, Prajna, Yuluo, and the others were moved. They knew that Lu Li had a good life in the divinity, but they did not know that he was doing so well. Why did so many powerful warriors support him? Ling Qingyan led the group into the castle, followed by Pan Yuqin and the other immortal kings of the new generation. The others were not allowed to enter the castle. Outside the castle, there were many beautiful maids on their knees. A red carpet was laid out from the inside to the outside. It was of a high standard. Everyone felt restrained when they entered the castle. The others did not dare to say anything. They just sat there nervously. Patriarch of law enforcement sat down. He cupped his fists and said, "Prince of Yin, may I ask, where's Lu Li?" Jiang Qiling and the others sat up straight. When Pan Yuqin went to pick them up, she did not mention anything about Lu Li. She only took Lu Li's token and brought them to the divinity. As for how to bring them to the divinity, it was easy. Pan Yuqin arranged for people to build teleportation formations in several secret realms and in the void. Then, she brought them from the purgatory of primordial chaos to the void and teleported them to the divinity. Since Lu Li could go to the purgatory of primordial chaos from the void, Pan Yuqin could bring them to the divinity from the void. Lu Li is not in the divinity. Ling Qingyan's words surprised everyone. Apart from Pan Yuqin, no one else knew that Lu Li was not in the divinity. Jiang Qiling, by Qiu Xue, and the others were disappointed. They thought they could see Lu Li as soon as they came to the divinity. "When can he come back?" Patriarch of law enforcement asked again. Ling Qingyan answered with a smile, "I am not sure. A year at the shortest and a dozen years at the longest. He is going to a faraway place. Before he left, he told me to take good care of you. Don't worry. I am indebted to Lu Li. He once saved me and the entire Yuyan land, and even the lives of all civilians in the divinity. I don't think I have any worthy opponents in the divinity. Therefore, nobody can hurt you. I will give you the best resources to help the Lu family establish a foothold in the divinity and become a super force." Yes, that is right. Lu Li is the savior of the divinity. We are all indebted to him. You can stay here with peace of mind. If anyone dares to disrespect you, we will not let them go. Lord Lu's family is the honored guest of the 9 immortal masters and of all civilians in the divinity. Nobody dares to disrespect you. Just stay here and wait for Lord Lu to come back." The other godly kings chimed in with respectful expressions. Jiang Qiling, by Qiu Xue, and by Xia Shuang were all stunning beauties. However, none of them dared to have any blasphemous thoughts because they were Lu Li's women. "Yuqin." Ling Qingyan looked at Pan Yuqin and said, "Go and take care of the Lu family. Bring all the Lu family members here. I will take care of them. Elders, do you think it is a good idea to give the southern part of the king of Yin City to the Lu family? Or should we build a separate city next to it?" The other immortal masters were stunned by Prince of Yan's generosity. Half of the king of Yin City to the Lu family? How many people could the Lu family have? The king of Yin City was a large city. Tens of millions of people could live here. "Well, I don't think it is necessary. Just give us some manners." Patriarch of law enforcement was taken aback as well. He had just checked the city, and there was no end to it. Who could tell how large it was? The total number of the Lu family members was over 100,000. Most of them were too weak to teleport. Only 2,000 or 3,000 could come to the divinity. Why would they need such a large territory? Chapter 1823. Nobody is here yet. Lu Li and Uncle Li had been waiting in the mountain for 10 days. Nobody came by. Though not impatient, they did find it strange. There were so many people at the Omen Island. How come nobody came by? Lu Li thought he might as well cultivate. Uncle Li had been checking, and there were small inhibition formations nearby. Lu Li could tell if someone was going to trigger them. He continued to comprehend the state of the cryptic spirit realm. He had made great progress recently, and it wouldn't be long before the state of the cryptic spirit realm would evolve and reach a deeper state. 3 days later, Lu Li suddenly opened his eyes. Uncle Li saw the surprise in Lu Li's eyes and asked, "What is it?" "The one who attacked us a few days ago is nearby," Lu Li explained. He touched the inhibition formations. Uncle Li was nervous. He frowned and said, "Even if he did, how do you know that he is the one who attacked us that day?" "Because of the worms of the void," Lu Li said. "He still has worms of the void in him. I have a mother worm that can sense the child worms. There are at least 1 billion worms of the void in him. I can feel it. He cannot dissolve the worms of the void." Uncle Li was excited. He had an idea and said, "Can you control the worms of the void to attack him? If you can injure him badly, we will have a chance to take him down." Lu Li shook his head. "He is too far away. I cannot control the subsidiary worms. I need to get closer." "Then let's try closer." Uncle Li was eager to take action. Lu Li believed that since the warrior could not dissolve the worms of the void after such a long time, he could control the worms of the void to attack him at any time. Lu Li nodded and dashed out with Uncle Li. The two of them hurried on. Based on the connection with the worms of the void, Lu Li was able to locate them easily. Up ahead, outside a valley, Lu Li stopped and gave an order to the mother worm. The child worms in the warrior's body surged and began to bite the warrior. Bang! A dull explosion sounded from the canyon in front of him, and a person shot out from the ground. His face was filled with pain as he rolled in the air. Soon, he smashed into a huge mountain. At the same time, he was screaming in agony. Uncle Li watched from afar, his face filled with shock. He had thought that there would be a big fight. Little did he know that Lu Li's bugs were so powerful. It seemed that he didn't even have to do anything for the warrior. The bugs could bite the warrior to death. They were so close that Lu Li could sense the warrior's condition through the connection between the mother insect and the child insect. That martial artist should have refined a portion of the void worms. Moreover, the speed of the void worms in that martial artist's body was very slow. It seemed that this martial artist still had a way to suppress the void worms. Unfortunately, there were too many of them. Bang, bang, bang. That warrior kept crashing into the mountain, causing the nearby mountains to collapse and boulders to tumble down. From time to time, he would even smash a large pit in the ground. If we wait any longer, this person will only be left with half a life, Lu Li said softly. He could tell that the worms of the void were gnawing away at the man's internal organs. They were almost gone. This person's fleshly body was very powerful. The void worm's biting speed was very slow, and the defense of his 5 viscera and 6 bowels wasn't very strong. Bang, bang. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, that warrior could no longer fly. Many of his energy channels were broken. He could no longer circulate divine energy around his body. Lu Li did not move. He continued to control the worms of the void to gnaw away at the man's body, injuring him so that he could no longer fight. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Uncle Li, that man must be badly injured. Let's go." "Master, wait here. I will go and have a look." Uncle Li told Lu Li to wait here. After all, Lu Li's defense was much weaker and he could be killed instantly. Uncle Li rushed over by himself. When he arrived, he swung his sword and attacked the warrior. Then, he shouted to Lu Li, "Master, it's okay now. Come here." Lu Li came. He took a look at the warrior. Blood was flowing out from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. The warrior was twitching. He looked miserable. Luli stopped the worms of the void. He thought about it and said, "How about we take him to the cave first?" "Sure." Uncle Lee grabbed the warrior's shoulder. His hand glowed with divine energy. A moment later, he took out an interspatial artifact and put the warrior in. Uncle Lee said, "I have sealed off his divine energy. He will not be in danger. Let's go." Luli was excited. At least he could learn something about the Omen Island if he captured a warrior. He would not be in a dead end without knowing it. They went back to the mountain. Uncle Lee took out the interspatial artifact and said, "Master, keep an eye on the outside. I will go in and get some information." Luli asked with concern, "Can you get all the information?" "Ha." Uncle Lee grinned coldly. "Master, I used to be in the Hall of Combat of the Hall of Dark Flames. I have many ways to interrogate people. Wait here. In 2 hours at most, I will get all the information. If I can't, I will search his soul. He does not have an enchanted soul to protect his soul." Uncle Lee went into the interspatial artifact. Luli waited anxiously while keeping his guard up. Now, it was all up to Uncle Lee. Luli hoped that after the information was clear, they could go somewhere safe. Staying here was not the way to go. 2 hours later, a tower next to Luli glowed as two people came out. Luli was surprised. Out of instinct, he put his guard up. He was relieved to see Uncle Lee smiling. "Master, don't worry. I have Yuan Bing under my control. He will not hurt you. Master, you can call back the worms and let Yuan Bing tend to his wounds." Uncle Lee explained. Lee's eyes glowed. Yuan Bing was more powerful than Uncle Lee. Under Uncle Lee's control, Luli and Luli could protect themselves better. Luli took back all the worms of the void. Uncle Lee waved his hand. Yuan Bing sat on the ground to tend to his wounds. Luli glanced at Yuan Bing and asked, "Are you absolutely sure?" Ha. Uncle Lee grinned coldly. "I have poisoned him, and it has infiltrated his soul. If he dares to do anything out of the ordinary, he will be poisoned to death as soon as he has the slightest intention to kill. Master, don't worry. I have learned many vicious methods in the Hall of Dark Flames." Luli was relieved. "Did you get anything out of him?" Chapter 1824. Cloud Mountain. Luli frowned and asked with curiosity, "Why do we have to go to this mountain? Isn't this place occupied by powerful warriors? What are we going to do here?" "This place is suitable for cultivation." Uncle Lee explained, "Cloud Mountain is occupied by powerful warriors, but the management is lax. Anyone who is willing to join the Cloud Mountain will be protected by the Cloud Mountain. As long as you don't violate the rules of the Cloud Mountain, you can cultivate here in peace. You don't have to do anything. Also, the Cloud Mountain is the safest because the master of the Cloud Mountain is the Demon King's favorite sister." "No wonder." Luli nodded. According to Uncle Lee, the Cloud Mountain was indeed the best place for the two of them. Not only was it safe, but there were also no restrictions. The spiritual chi was abundant, suitable for cultivation. Uncle Lee then explained to Luli about the other places of the Omen Island. It took him an hour to get a better understanding of the Omen Island. The most powerful force on the Omen Island was, of course, the Demon King's side, followed by the 5 mountains. The largest of the 5 mountains was the Cloud Mountain. The other 4 mountains were occupied by the 4 powerful warriors. The powerful warriors that occupied the 4 mountains were all 3 Tribulation Heaven gods. They were powerful. That being said, there were many rules for joining the 4 mountains. It would be troublesome to leave after joining. The other mountains were not safe. Wars could break out at any time. Masters of the mountains changed frequently. Apart from the 3 cities and the 5 mountains, there were frequent battles in other places. The Demon King had set down the rules. As long as the battles were not fought in the cities and the islanders were not killed in front of the island warriors, she wouldn't care about anything else. Even if hundreds of thousands of people in a mountain were to be slaughtered, she would pretend she didn't know about it. It was because of this attitude of the Demon King that many people were attracted to the Omen Island, especially warriors that had offended some forces of the second heaven. They had nowhere to go. Only in places like the Omen Island could more and more powerful warriors gather here. The Demon King wasn't afraid that someone would challenge her position. If someone thought they were more powerful than her, they could challenge her at any time. If they could defeat her, the entire Omen Island would be given to them. There were people who challenged the great Demon King in history, but they were all mercilessly killed in the end. The great Demon King didn't care what others said about her. As long as they didn't go to the heavenly demon city and scold her in front of her. For example, if a few people insulted her in private, she would ignore it even if she got the news. The great Demon King's breadth of mind made her especially respected and loved on the heavenly Devil Island. There were many invasions, and all the powerhouses on the island were mobilized to follow the great Demon King to resist the enemies. Usually, their internal strife might be very serious, but once an enemy invaded, the entire heavenly Devil Island would become especially united. Because the great Demon King's prestige was so high, no one dared to bully her clan sister. Skycloud Mountain became the safest place aside from the three cities, which was why Uncle Lee suggested going to Skycloud Mountain. Then let's go to Skycloud Mountain. Luli nodded. Uncle Lee's judgment was the same as his. Going to Cloud Mountain now was indeed the best choice. They needed a safe and quiet place. Luli needed to cultivate. Without enough power, he could not go anywhere. Luli's strength was at the bottom of the second heaven. Apart from finding a place to cultivate, there was nothing he could do. Yuan Bing had not recovered yet. Luli and Uncle Lee were not in a hurry. It was some distance from here to Skycloud Mountain. Even if nothing happened along the way, it would take at least 2 or 3 months. 2 or 3 more days wouldn't make a difference. Yuan Bing recovered quickly. In 2 days, he was almost fully recovered. When he woke up, he knelt to Li Tian at once and said, "Lord." Yuan Bing was more powerful than Uncle Lee, but he was in a disadvantageous position. His life was in Uncle Lee's hands, so he had to bow. Uncle Lee nodded, pointed to Lu Li, and said, "Young master." Yuan Bing bowed to Lu Li with fear and said, "Greetings, young master." Lu Li's worms of the void had made Yuan Bing suffer. Naturally, Yuan Bing hated Lu Li to the bone, but he dared not to show it, or he would be killed by Uncle Lee in an instant. Let's go to Skycloud Mountain. Lu Li waved his hand and went into the mountain. The mountain turned into a small ball and flew to Uncle Lee's hand. This was what Lu Li and Uncle Lee had discussed. Uncle Lee would take Lu Li with him. This way, it would be safer and faster. At critical moments, Lu Li could use the worms of the void to launch sneak attacks. Uncle Lee asked Yuan Bing to lead the way. Yuan Bing was more familiar with the Omen Island. He had been here for many years. Previously, he followed a team of powerful warriors to roam around the island, robbing warriors of low realms. Not long ago, his team ran into a powerful warrior. Most of them were killed, and the survivors ran away in different directions. Yuan Bing was lucky enough to survive and made it here. Little did he know that he would fail miserably. With Yuan Bing leading the way, the journey was much safer. Yuan Bing knew very well where some old warriors lived. He led Lu Li around for more than 10 days, but they didn't run into anyone. On the 16th day, Yuan Bing suddenly stopped, and Uncle Lee also looked ahead with a face full of wariness. There were muffled explosions in front of them, which meant that there were people fighting ahead. "Let's go around." Uncle Lee didn't want to go and watch. If it was 2 powerful warriors fighting, they would be killed by mistake. It was better not to go and watch such a show. They didn't want to watch, but the show had come to them. As soon as they flew around from the left, they saw a team rushing over from the distance. Uncle Lee and Yuan Bing hid. Clearly, there were 2 groups fighting above them. They didn't want to get involved and suffer undeserved misfortune. There were more than 50 people on both sides. Now, there were more than 30 people chasing after more than 20. Even though most of the warriors were weaker than Yuan Bing and Uncle Lee, they had the advantage in numbers. Once they were surrounded and killed, it would be troublesome. Whoosh! Luckily, the warriors in front were in a hurry to escape, and the warriors behind didn't notice Uncle Lee and Uncle Lee. The group of people quickly flew past Uncle Lee and Yuan Bing in the blink of an eye. All of a sudden, someone said in surprise. He looked at Uncle Lee and Yuan Bing and shouted, "There are two hiding here!" Swish, 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 more than a dozen divine senses scanned the area. The warrior in front shouted, "Leave 4 of you to kill them. The rest of you keep chasing." Whoosh! The 4 people at the back flew backwards, and one of them sent out a palm strike from afar. The mountain that Uncle Lee and Yuan Bing were on was shaken off, and dust filled the sky. Boulders flew everywhere, and the mountain collapsed. Whoosh! Li Tian and Yuan Bing soared into the sky. The 2 of them did not fight. Instead, they flew north. It was not that the 2 of them were afraid of the 4 cultivators. Rather, they were afraid that a fight with the 4 cultivators would attract even more cultivators. Thus, the 2 of them decided to put some distance between themselves and the 4 cultivators. If the 4 cultivators continued to follow them, they would fight them. Li Tian and Yuan Bing's speed was very fast, but the 4 of them were not afraid. They felt that there were 4 of them, and there were only 2 of them, so they had a chance to kill Li Tian and Yuan Bing. Chapter 1825. Charge! Uncle Lee roared. He and Yuan Bing turned around at the same time. The 2 of them locked onto one person and attacked. 2 shocking streams of light shot out. The warrior at the front tried to dodge, but it was too late. He was smashed away by the 2 streaks of light. Courting death. The other 3 were enraged. One of them turned into a shadow and appeared next to Yuan Bing the next second. The warrior clawed at Yuan Bing's back. Yuan Bing stabbed back with his sword. He didn't expect that the warrior was wearing a chaos armor. Yuan Bing's sword could not pierce through. Bang! Yuan Bing was smashed away. His back was covered in blood. If it weren't for the fact that he was strong, he would have been pierced by the claw. At the same time, the other 2 warriors dashed over to Uncle Lee and began to attack him. Buzzing, Uncle Lee suddenly vanished into thin air. A small mountain glowed, and then swarms of worms flew out. One of the 2 warriors reacted quickly and ran away at once. The other one was enveloped by the worms of the void. Bang! The divine mountain rapidly enlarged and slammed into the man, sending him crashing into a nearby mountain. Then, with a flash of light, Uncle Lee came out and smashed at the warrior's head with his heavy sword. The worms of the void inside the warrior began to gnaw at him. He was in a panic when Uncle Lee came at him with his heavy sword. He forgot to dodge and was hit on the head. Bang! Uncle Lee had learned a fundamental principle, similar to Lu Li's soul-shattering skill, but much more powerful. A powerful force passed through the tip of the sword and exploded in this person's head. This martial artist's head exploded. Perfect! Uncle Lee was overjoyed. Just now, Lu Li told him that they would cooperate. Uncle Lee didn't expect that their first cooperation would be so perfect. It was not that Uncle Lee couldn't kill the warrior, but it was too easy for him to work with Lu Li. Grabbing the mountain in one hand, Uncle Lee dashed over like a mad dragon. This time, his target was the immortal in the chaos armor. Because Lu Li had set his sights on this man, Lu Li had his eyes on his primordial spirit armor. Whoosh! Yuan Bing flew up from below and rushed towards the heavily injured martial artist. Soon, Uncle Lee was close to the warrior in the chaos armor. He didn't attack from afar. Instead, he tried to stay close to the warrior to create a chance for Lu Li. Bang, bang, bang. His heavy sword kept clashing with the man's sharp claws. The man's claws were obviously wearing some kind of treasure. When his heavy sword struck it, it was no different from striking a weapon. His own hands were still numb from the impact. Lu Li had been checking with psychic power, but the warrior's movements were so strange that he could be far and close at the same time. Clearly, the warrior was on guard against the mountain. Lu Li couldn't find a chance. Boom! On the other side, Yuan Bing stabbed the heavily injured martial artist to death with a sword. The situation became 2 against 2. The pressure on Uncle Lee was not that great anymore. Yuan Bing's fighting strength was still very strong. Although he was injured, the remaining warrior was still being suppressed by him. Go kill the other person with Yuan Bing. This person will definitely ambush you. Lu Li suddenly had an idea. He sent a message to Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee had an idea. He made several moves with his sword, and then he flew back like an arrow toward Yuan Bing. The cultivator, wearing the primordial spirit heavenly treasure battle armor, grew anxious. His body blurred into a blur as he pierced through the void, appearing behind Uncle Lee in the next second. Buzzing, right at that moment, the mountain in Uncle Lee's hand glowed. Uncle Lee was sucked in by the mountain. Then, worms of the void came out and swarmed toward the warrior. The worms of the void turned into shadows. In an instant, hundreds of thousands of them pierced into the warrior's body. What? This martial artist's expression changed drastically, and his body suddenly shot downwards. He actually rushed into the ground and quickly disappeared. He ran away. Luli said to himself that it was a pity. He wanted to get himself a primordial spirit treasure to wear. He didn't expect that the warrior would react so quickly. He ran away without any hesitation. The rest was easy. Luli let Uncle Lee out and Yuan Bing to kill the other warrior. That warrior tried to run away, but was stopped by Yuan Bing. When Uncle Lee joined the fight, the warrior was killed by Yuan Bing. Luli cleaned up the battlefield and put away all the treasures and interspatial rings. Then, he let Yuan Bing rest in the mountain. Uncle Lee took the mountain and ran away. If Luli didn't run now, the dozens of warriors would come back to hunt Uncle Lee down. Uncle Lee was relieved to make sure that no one was chasing after him after he ran for hundreds of miles. He sent a message to Yuan Bing to ask for directions and then moved on. Yuan Bing was not seriously injured. Since they didn't need too many people on the way, Luli decided to let Yuan Bing stay inside to heal his wounds. They could be ambushed at the Omen Island at any time. They must be at their best at all times. Otherwise, they could be killed. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Uncle Lee, who was running, suddenly stopped, and a look of fear appeared on his face. When he passed by a lake, a surge of psychic power came out from the bottom of the lake. That psychic power made him feel cold. He felt he was facing the Grand Master of the Hall of Black Flames. He didn't dare to move. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. If this powerful warrior wanted to make a move, Uncle Lee, Lu Li, and Yuan Bing together would not be able to survive one move. Inside the mountain, Lu Li and Yuan Bing trembled at the same time. That psychic power had penetrated into the mountain and scanned through them. They sensed the power of the psychic power as well. Not to mention how powerful the warrior was, his soul must be strong. Lu Li and Yuan Bing didn't dare to move. Any move would be futile in the face of such a powerful warrior. It all depended on whether this powerful warrior wanted to kill them or not. If he did, not even God could save them. The Nine Wonders Mountain? The name suddenly came out and sounded in Lu Li and the other two's souls. Lu Li and Uncle Lee's expressions changed. Their souls were filled with despair. Since this warrior had recognized the Nine Wonders Mountain, it was very likely that he would take it. Even if Lu Li gave up the Nine Wonders Mountain, this powerful warrior would kill him to prevent the information from leaking out. The Nine Wonders Mountain belonged to King Mu, a powerful warrior at the third heaven. Any warrior would be tempted by such a treasure. Buzzing, Lu Li's eyes flickered. He teleported himself out and said with cupped fists, "Sir, I think this treasure is the Nine Wonders Mountain, but I haven't found the other 3. Facing such a powerful warrior, playing any tricks would be courting death." Luli might as well admit it. "Yes, you are right." Soon, the voice came. It was calm and emotionless. Luli and Uncle Lee felt a bit relieved. The voice continued, "Punk, aren't you afraid that I will take your treasure? Kill all of you?" "Yes." Luli cupped his fists and said bitterly, "Nobody wants to die, not even me. But you are so powerful. It is pointless for me to say more. If I die here today, I can only blame it on my bad luck." Ha ha ha. The powerful warrior suddenly burst into laughter and said something that delighted Lu Li and Li Tian. "You are smart. You can go now. I have lived for hundreds of thousands of years. I will not make things difficult for a newborn like you. An incomplete Nine Wonders Mountain is not good enough for me." "Thank you, sir." Lu Li and Li Tian bowed at the same time. When they were about to leave, the powerful warrior suddenly said to Lu Li alone, "If I remember correctly, there's a Nine Wonders Mountain on the Omen Island. I don't know who has it. It will be up to your luck and strength whether you can get it or not. If you can get it, your Nine Wonders mountain will be much more powerful. P.S. Many people are asking about Lu Li's portrait on QQ. I have already posted one on WeChat. I will post it again tomorrow. In a couple of days, I will post a cartoon-like portrait of Lu Li. It is very handsome. If you want to see it, please follow my WeChat account, Night of Evil. Chapter 1826. Lu Li went back to the mountain. This time, he asked Uncle Li to put the mountain into his interspatial ring. If anything happened, he could let them out at once. In this way, powerful warriors wouldn't find the mountain. Just because that powerful warrior didn't covet it didn't mean that the others would. Uncle Li led Lu Li and Yuan Bing on for hundreds of thousands of miles before the cold sweat on Lu Li's back disappeared. That was too dangerous. If that powerful warrior wanted to kill, none of them could escape. One of the mountains is at the Omen Mountain. If I can integrate the seventh mountain, the power of the Nine Wonders Mountain will be enhanced. Lu Li was excited. He had talked to Little Six and knew that if he could find all 9 mountains and integrate them, the power would be horrifying. But who could tell where the mountain was in a sea of people? Also, it was just one mountain, not powerful. Maybe it was in a corner of an interspatial ring of a warrior? Could he go through all the interspatial rings of warriors at the Omen Island? What if that mountain was in the hands of the Demon Lord? Should he ask the Demon Lord for it? Alas, Lu Li realized that it was difficult to find the 7th mountain. He would have to rely on fate and luck. If he could not find it, there was no point in forcing it. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing talked for a while and decided to take a safer route. After all, there were many people wandering around the Omen Island. Who could tell if they would run into powerful warriors? The mountain was put into the interspatial ring, so Lu Li could not use psychic power anymore. He decided to cultivate. He was about to reach the next level of the cryptic spirit realm, and he wanted to make the best use of his time. Time passed by. Lu Li and the other 2 were lucky. They had been on the road for 4 to 5 days, and they ran into warriors twice. But neither time was too powerful. The first time, the warriors didn't bother Uncle Li, and the second time, Uncle Li ran away in advance. On the 6th day, Lu Li was alarmed. Uncle Li sent a message saying that he was in trouble. Lu Li checked with psychic power. The mountain was taken out. At once, he let Yuan Bing out, who had recovered. 8. They're not that powerful. How do they stop us? Lu Li used psychic power to check. There were 8 warriors in front of him who were similar to Yin Zhen. When Yuan Bing came out, the other party's expressions changed as well. They also noticed Lu Li's psychic power, which made them even more worried. Who knew how many more people were in the Divine Mountains? He didn't want Uncle Li to release another dozen people. They were able to intercept Uncle Li because of their advantage in numbers. If there were more people hiding here, they would be courting death. Boss, what should we do? A middle-aged man asked a gray-haired old man. The old man's eyes flickered for a moment before he gritted his teeth and waved his hand. Do it, Buzz. On the other side, Yuan Bing made the first move. A longbow appeared in his hand, and he continuously plucked the bowstring. Black arrows of light whizzed out at the speed of light. Yuan Bing's shooting speed was too fast. He could shoot out dozens of arrows in a single breath's time. These black arrows came one after another, tearing through the void. Bang, bang, bang. A white shield of light appeared in front of the old man. The shield of light was condensed from airflow. The airflow was constantly rotating, and the black arrows were all swallowed up by the shield of light. Hee hee, Yuan Bing sneered. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he shouted, "Explode!" Boom, boom, boom. The light shield suddenly exploded, and the nearby space also exploded, tearing the space apart. The horrifying shock wave spread out, smashing away several warriors nearby. Run! The gray-haired old man was covered in blood. He retreated in terror and shouted. Yuan Bing sneered and kept on shooting. This time, the black arrows were different from before. This time, the black arrows were like poisonous snakes, and they were even faster. They easily caught up to a few people and wrapped around their bodies, greatly reducing their speed. How dare you try to rob others when you are so weak? Yuan Bing sneered. Uncle Li dashed over and smashed at the head of a slowed-down warrior with his sword. With a loud noise, the warrior's head was crushed, and he was smashed away. Bang, bang, bang. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing worked together. None of the 8 could escape. They were killed easily. Lu Li had been observing the situation outside with psychic power. He was impressed. Yuan Bing was strong. It was just that he did not have the Chaos Treasure armor and weapons, or else he would be even stronger. My offense and defense are weak, and I'm not fast enough. The only thing I can tell is that I have a strong soul defense. Lu Li analyzed. For defense, he could find more thunderbolts to absorb so that he could improve his body faster. For offense, he could either learn a powerful fundamental principle or figure out a way to integrate it into the Slayer's Ghost Cut to increase the number of times it could rotate. The Slayer's Ghost Cut could only rotate 3 times. If it could reach 4, 5, or even 10, he could kill a 3 Tribulation Heaven immortal easily. Of course, it was a beautiful dream. To integrate the Slayer's Ghost Cut with fundamental principle was difficult. It required time and luck. As for moving speed, it was more difficult. He could either find a chaos treasure that could increase his speed or cultivate divine energy. When divine energy was strong, his speed would increase as well. Or he could only learn the fundamental principle related to speed. Let's go. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing cleaned up the battlefield and collected the spoils. Then they moved on. This time, Yuan Bing didn't go with them. His wounds were healed, and he was more familiar with the Omen Island. It would be safer for him to lead the way. Louis didn't care about that. He continued to cultivate in peace. As long as Uncle Li and Yuan Bing didn't send him a message, he wouldn't care. The rest of the journey was not peaceful. They had been on the road for more than a month and encountered more than a dozen warriors. Neither Uncle Li nor Yuan Bing sent a message to Lu Li because Lu Li could not be of much help. Therefore, Lu Li didn't know that Yuan Bing had led them away from all the cultivation places and forces of powerful warriors. The warriors they encountered recently were not powerful. The most powerful one they encountered the day before was a Lone Ranger. Neither Yuan Bing nor Uncle Li could defeat him, and they were almost killed by him. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing risked their lives, and the Lone Ranger had some concerns. Eventually, Uncle Li and Yuan Bing managed to escape. Soon, we will arrive at the Cloud Mountain in 3 days at most. After they made it out, they found a small cave to hide and rest. Yuan Bing took a look at the map and exhaled. Uncle Li nodded to the distance. He hoped that everything would go smoothly in the next 3 days. They would be safe once they arrived at the Cloud Mountain. Yuan Bing looked at Uncle Li with a pleading look and said, "Lord, can you cure me when we arrive at the Cloud Mountain? I cannot go to the Cloud Mountain, or I will die for sure." Why? Uncle Li was confused. Wasn't the Cloud Mountain a safe place? Because I once offended a man, and he is at the Cloud Mountain. Chapter 1827. Okay. Uncle Li thought about it and said with a nod, "When we get to the foot of the Cloud Mountain, I will cure you and set you free." Once they arrived at the Cloud Mountain, they would be completely safe. Yuan Bing would not be of much help anymore. During this time, they had been fighting side by side, and Yuan Bing had helped a lot. Naturally, Uncle Li would not make things difficult for Yuan Bing. Yuan Bing thanked Uncle Li. Ever since he was controlled by Uncle Li, he had never thought about living. He didn't expect that Uncle Li would be kind enough to set him free so soon. The two rested for more than half a day and recovered a bit. They resumed their journey. There were still a few more days to go. Hopefully, they would be safe. Lu Li knew nothing about the outside world. He had reached a critical point in his cultivation and was about to make a breakthrough to the cryptic spirit realm. Even if the sky was falling down, he wouldn't care if Uncle Li didn't send a message. 1 day, 2 days. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing only ran into 2 warriors on their way. They both went around each other after they sensed each other. They were about to arrive at the Cloud Mountain. Both Uncle Li and Yuan Bing were excited. One of them could settle down for a while, and the other was free. Both of them were in a good mood. They were very close to the Cloud Mountain, less than half a day's journey. There might be many warriors at the foot of the Cloud Mountain, but the powerful ones wouldn't do anything rash. After all, this was a challenge to the owner of the Cloud Mountain. No powerful warrior would dare to offend the owner of the Cloud Mountain, no matter how ruthless he was. The two of them moved forward quickly, but they didn't dare to be too conspicuous. They didn't fly. They sneaked on like two foxes. They walked on for 4 hours. They did run into some people, but nobody dared to make a move. They just checked each other out. In the distant horizon, they could vaguely make out a towering mountain. Such a tall mountain was definitely Heavenly Cloud Mountain. Both of them were delighted. Yuan Bing would look at Uncle Li from time to time, waiting for him to cure him. Just a bit more, and I will cure you. Uncle Li waved his hand. He was relieved to be here. There must be soldiers patrolling at the foot of the Cloud Mountain. Nobody would be so bold as to kill them. Whoosh! The two of them leapt up a small mountain. However, at that moment, a powerful divine sense swept out from within the small mountain. Next, the small mountain exploded and a cultivator flew out, punching Uncle Li. Bang! There was a layer of green energy swirling around Uncle Li's body. His defensive power was not any weaker than the Grand Spirit Heavenly Treasure battle armor he was wearing. However, this punch directly dispersed the cyan airflow and broke half of Uncle Li's leg with a single punch. Xiao! Yuan Bing reacted quickly and slashed the head of the martial artist below him. Yuan Bing felt as though his sword had struck a divine weapon, and his long sword was actually repelled. That person's eyes turned ferocious as he grabbed Yuan Bing's leg and twisted it forcefully. Yuan Bing's leg was twisted like a fried dough twist. Ah! Yuan Bing cried out in pain. He was also a ruthless character. He swung his sword and chopped at the calf, while his other leg kicked at the warrior's head. His body bounced back. Go! Uncle Li was frightened and shouted at Yuan Bing. This person was too strong. He was definitely at the pinnacle of the Second Tribulation Heavenly God Realm. With their battle prowess, it was impossible for them to fight him. Now, their only way out was to rush to the foot of Mount Skycloud. With the deterrence of the Mount Skycloud army, this person would not dare to chase after them. The two speed was at the limit. Uncle Li kept on releasing long-range attacks to stop that person from chasing after them. Although one of Yuan Bing's legs was broken, he gritted his teeth and took out his longbow. As he fled, he shot black arrows that filled the sky to stop that person from chasing after them. That person roared and rushed over. He was slightly faster than Uncle Li and Yuan Bing. However, Uncle Li and Yuan Bing were both releasing long-range attacks to slow down this person. The distance between the two parties was still more than 5 kilometers. They were getting closer, getting closer. 5 minutes later, the two saw a huge mountain shrouded in a faint mist. At the foot of the mountain, there were indeed groups of martial artists wearing silver battle armor. The two almost cried tears of joy. They flew forward crazily and stopped attacking the people behind them. They were afraid that they would anger the Mount Skycloud army. There were 2 groups of soldiers at the foot of Mount Skycloud. Because of Uncle Li's battle, they were attracted over. The formidable martial artist chasing after them saw so many soldiers locking onto them. After another 1 kilometer, he stopped. He glanced coldly at Uncle Li and Yuan Bing, then turned around and left. Uncle Li and Yuan Bing were relieved. They dared not to stay any longer. They rushed toward Mount Skycloud. Yuan Bing took a healing pellet to stop the bleeding. Uncle Li's leg was broken as well, but it was not a serious injury. He could recover in half a day. Swish, swish, swish. When he was more than 5 kilometers away from Skycloud Mountain, Yuan Bing suddenly stopped, his complexion turning deathly pale. Uncle Li stopped and asked in surprise, "What is it?" Yuan Bing's eyes were filled with hatred. He said while clenching his teeth, "My enemy is in front of me. He found me." Uncle Li was stunned. He didn't know what to do. If Yuan Bing retreated now, that enemy would not let him go. Even if they didn't secretly go after him, they would find someone to go after him. Yuan Bing would need at least 1 day to recover from his broken leg. 1 day was enough for his enemy to arrange for him to be killed. If Yuan Bing went to Mount Skycloud with Uncle Li, nobody would dare to do anything to him in a short time. That being said, that enemy would try to kill Yuan Bing. Lu Li and Uncle Li might even be implicated. Uncle Li thought for a while and thought of a compromise. He said, "How about we go to Mount Skycloud first? When you are healed, you can leave secretly." Sure, Yuan Bing thought about it. This was the safest way. If he dared to leave now, he would die for sure. He thought about it and said, "Lord, you go first. Pretend that you are not familiar with me. I won't implicate you." Okay. Uncle Li's ring flashed as he tossed out an antidote. Then, he quickly flew forward. He was not a kind man. This was all he could do to help Yuan Bing. He would not let Yuan Bing implicate him and Lu Li. Buzzing, while Uncle Li was flying, he took out the Nine Wonders Mountain and teleported Lu Li out. Lu Li was still cultivating when he woke up. He checked with psychic power and put away the Nine Wonders Mountain. Then, he looked at Uncle Li with surprise. He noticed Yuan Bing was behind him, but he didn't ask too many questions since there were two teams of warriors in front. "Master, I will explain to you later," Uncle Li said. Then he added, "Later, I will have to ask you to pretend to be my nephew. This way, it won't be out of place or draw attention." "Okay, Uncle Li." Lu Li didn't mind the way Uncle Li addressed him. He was young and weak. If Uncle Li were to call him master, it would draw attention. Uncle Li brought Lu Li to a team of warriors. He cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, lords. We are here to join Mount Skycloud." "Ha." A cold-eyed middle-aged man with braids said with a sneer, "Don't you have another friend? Why didn't you bring him along?" At first, Uncle Li didn't know who Yuan Bing's enemy was. Now he understood. This man happened to be a team leader. He was more powerful than Yuan Bing, and he spoke with killing intent. Clearly, he was Yuan Bing's sworn enemy. Without any hesitation, Uncle Li cupped his fists and said, "Lord, we just met him. We are not familiar with him. He is not our friend." "Ha, is that so?" The commander with the braid waved his hand and ordered a soldier, "Bring these two people into the mountain to meet Commander Wang. At the same time, tell them the rules of our Skycloud Mountain. Don't let them die without knowing why." Chapter 1828. Mount Tianyin was huge. It was not a single mountain, but a huge mountain range. The mountain range was special with many layers. There were 49 hills at the periphery and 18 mountains in the middle. In the middle was the main peak, which was divided into 3 levels. That was to say, Mount Tianyin was divided into 5 areas with different xianqi in each area. The highest level of the main peak had the most xianqi. It was said that it could be compared to the Chaos Realm. Taking a breath there could increase divine energy. Warriors of Mount Tianyin were divided into 5 levels: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and wood. Warriors of different levels would live in different areas. This level was not only available to the soldiers of Skycloud Mountain. Instead, it was available to everyone. As long as one could obtain different status and treatment, they would be able to live in different regions. Then how do I get different identity tokens? Based on combat abilities? Lu Li could not help but ask after hearing the warrior's explanation. He was the weakest, so he could only live in the periphery. Uncle Li would have to separate from him and live in the 18 mountains. The Tower of Demon Imprisonment. The warrior pointed to the main peak and said, "At the foot of the main peak is the Tower of Demon Imprisonment. Everyone has a chance to go there once a month. If you can pass the first level, not only will you get an iron token, but you will also be rewarded with elixirs. So on. If you can pass the second level, you will get a bronze token, the third a silver token, and the fourth a golden token. If you can pass the 5th level, you will be summoned by Fairy Tianyun and have a chance to enter the Chaos Realm every year." Once a year? Lu Li and Uncle Li's eyes glowed. They could forget about the Chaos Realm. It would be a great fortune to be able to enter the Chaos Realm. Passing the 5th level of the Tower of Demon Imprisonment could give them a chance to enter the Chaos Realm every year. It sounded unbelievable. Wait, Lu Li remembered something. The Chaos Realm was a place of treasures. How could Fairy Tianyin have a chance to bring people there? If there was an entrance to the Chaos Realm at the Omen Island, it would be controlled by the Devil King. Even if Fairy Tianyin was the Devil King's favorite sister, she would not be given such a great power. Of course, he didn't dare to ask about this. He could only ask, "Sir, how many people from Sky Cloud Mountain have passed the 5th level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda?" "One," the soldier said with certainty. "There was one 30 years ago, but that person left Heavenly Devil Island and was later killed." "One?" Lu Li and Uncle Li looked at each other, feeling bitter. There were so many people at the Cloud Mountain, so many powerful warriors. Only one person could pass the 5th floor of the Tower of Demon Imprisonment. Lu Li and Uncle Li should stop dreaming. Remember this. The soldiers solemnly explained, "You've just joined the Heavenly Cloud Mountain, so you can only be considered as citizens of the wooden tablet. Other than walking around the outer 49 peaks, if you dare to enter the Yao Ceiling Pagoda, you'll be killed without question. In addition, you're not allowed to fight privately in Mount Heavenly Cloud. Any disputes will be settled outside Mount Heavenly Cloud. Whoever dares to fight will be killed without mercy." "Yes, yes," Lu Li and Uncle Li answered at once. The warrior led them into a small hill. Lu Li and Uncle Li didn't dare to look around. They glanced around and found many caves in the hill. Clearly, they were dug by themselves. The caves were densely packed, like a hornet's nest. The soldier brought the two of them to the peak of a small mountain. There was a castle there. Pointing to the caves nearby, the warrior said, "Citizens of the wooden tablet are not qualified to build castles. You can find an empty cave or dig one yourself. But don't dig too deep. There are inhibition formations at the foot of the hill. If you break the inhibition formations, you'll be killed without mercy." There were two warriors outside the castle. They glanced over Lu Li and Uncle Li and let them in. There was a leader inside, a wretched-looking man with a goatee. He was more powerful than Uncle Li. "Have you told him the rules?" Leader Wang looked at the warrior. After getting confirmation, he took out 2 wooden tokens with the words Heaven Cloud on them. He waved his hand and said, "On the 3rd day of every month, you are qualified to go to the Tower of Monsters. Don't bother me during the rest of the month. Go register and leave." Lu Li and Uncle Li registered their information and then left. That warrior pointed to a mountain in the distance and said, "Recently, more than 10 people died trying to break into the Tower of Demon Interception. You can live there. Also, citizens of the wooden tablet have the obligation to help the warriors capture beasts of primordial chaos. If you're called upon by chance, you must cooperate." Okay. It was Lu Li and Uncle Li's first time here, so they kept a low profile. They walked toward the mountain in a well-behaved manner. On their way, they saw that all the mountains were caves. Many of the caves had inhibition formations. There must be people living in them. They arrived at the small mountain pointed out by the warrior. They looked around and found more than a dozen caves that were unoccupied. Lu Li and Uncle Li thought about it and chose a clean and spacious cave to live in. "Let me set up some inhibition formations." There were some inhibition formations in the cave, but to Lu Li, they were of low levels. He and Uncle Li might need to cultivate here for some time. It would be better for them to set up some inhibition formations and some spirit-gathering formations, which were suitable for cultivation. It didn't take long to set up such inhibition formations. In the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Lu Li was done. After making sure that the inhibition formations were in order, Lu Li and Uncle Li leaned against the wall and rested. At the Cloud Mountain, Lu Li and Uncle Li had a place to settle down. At least, they didn't have to worry about being killed. Next, it would be up to them to grow stronger. Without enough power, Lu Li wouldn't even dare to step out of the Cloud Mountain, let alone the Omen Island. Uncle Li sat down as well, relaxed. He had spent so many years in the second heaven that his will to fight had been extinguished. All he wanted now was to find a chance to get his daughter back so that he could die without regrets. Bang! All of a sudden, there came a muffled sound. Lu Li and Uncle Li opened their eyes at the same time. Didn't they say that fighting was forbidden at the Cloud Mountain? How come someone dared to fight at the Cloud Mountain? Whoosh! Lu Li and Uncle Li rushed out of the cave and checked where the sound came from with psychic power. Many warriors rushed out from nearby caves as well. The fight in the mountain had attracted a lot of onlookers. Yuan Bing. Soon, Lu Li's expressions changed, and so did Uncle Li. They sensed a team of warriors were attacking Yuan Bing. Yuan Bing was already injured. Now, he was even more seriously injured. He was about to be killed. It's that leader. Uncle Li noticed with psychic power that the leader with the braid was among the warriors. He was Yuan Bing's sworn enemy. Uncle Li's eyes grew cold, but he didn't do anything. Yuan Bing was not his friend. Even if Yuan Bing were his friend, Uncle Li wouldn't dare to do anything rash. Boom! Yuan Bing's head was cut off by the leader with the braid. Holding Yuan Bing's head in his hand, the leader looked around and shouted coldly, "Anyone who dares to break the rules of the Cloud Mountain, this man will be your example. What are you looking at? Go away." Many people went back to the cave at once. Uncle Li pulled Lu Li back. However, the leader with the braid just happened to look over. Uncle Li made eye contact with him. Oh no! Uncle Li's heart sank. He saw killing intent in the eyes of the leader with the braid. It seemed that this leader would not let it go. Sooner or later, he would make trouble for Uncle Li and Lu Li. I have to figure out a way to get the iron or bronze token. Chapter 1829. Uncle Li had already guessed that Commander Pigtail would not let the matter rest. Therefore, he had Yuan Bing leave immediately after recuperating at Mount Skycloud. He originally thought that Commander Pigtail wouldn't act recklessly. After all, he was just a minor commander in front of everyone. How could he violate Skycloud Mountain's rules and kill people indiscriminately? However, he didn't expect Commander Braid to be so ruthless as to directly kill someone. Uncle Li guessed that he must have found some kind of reason, but wasn't it too cruel? Revenge does not wait overnight. From this person's cold eyes and the fact that he was thinking of ways to kill Yuan Bing, Uncle Li could tell that this person was a vengeful person. Now that he was sure that Uncle Li, Lu Li, and Yuan Bing were partners, he would find a way to kill them. Uncle Li showed Lu Li into the cave and led him out of the inhibition formation. Uncle Li told Lu Li about Yuan Bing and his concerns. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. He saw Yuan Bing's death with his own eyes. This was clearly revenge. He had thought that he would be very safe in Mount Tianyun, but he did not expect Tu Sheng to have such an accident. Let's wait until the beginning of next month. Lu Li sighed and said, "At the beginning of next month, we will go to the demon subduing tower and have a look. If we can pass the first level and get the iron token, then this leader will not dare to do anything rash." "Master, are you going to challenge it?" Uncle Li became slightly nervous. A dozen or so people had died on this mountain not long ago. This meant that the first level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda was very dangerous. Lu Li's combat ability was at the bottom of the second heaven. It was highly likely that he would die in the demon subduing tower. I'll continue to cultivate in seclusion for the next few days. If you have time, go make some connections with the people nearby and ask about the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Also, ask about that commander. Lu Li waved his hand. He thought about it and said, "Don't get into conflict with that leader. No matter how he insults you, you must endure it. Don't give him a chance to do anything." All right. Since Lu Li had made up his mind, Uncle Li couldn't persuade him otherwise. Lu Li activated the spirit gathering formation and started to cultivate. Recently, he was about to break through to the cryptic spirit realm, so he wanted to hurry up and evolve this state. Uncle Li, on the other hand, went out for a stroll. He didn't dare to go too far, so he just strolled around and tried to strike up a conversation with someone. However, after finding a few people, no one paid any attention to him. Later, he found a small martial artist with relatively low combat strength and threw him a few top-notch elixirs. This person immediately became easy to talk to. In just a few hours, Uncle Li had obtained the information he needed. He felt a little more at ease. He knew a little about the situation on the first floor of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. If he didn't risk his life, he still had a good chance of surviving. Those who had died were people who had risked their lives to get through the first stage, but they had died inside. If one obtained an iron medallion, ordinary soldiers would not dare to provoke them, because the iron medallion represented great strength and status. If you could obtain a bronze identity, then even the commander would be polite to you. If you could obtain a silver badge, then even the commanders would have to pay their respects to you. Therefore, if he wanted to live comfortably in Skycloud Mountain, he had to find a way to obtain a bronze or iron plate identity. At the very least, he had to have an iron plate identity. With the identity of the wooden token, if the commander really wanted to kill indiscriminately, the higher-ups would only reprimand him at most. They wouldn't make the commander pay with his life. After he got the information, Uncle Lee didn't dare to wander outside anymore, for fear that the commander would seize the chance. He went back to his cave and started closed-door cultivation. The commander in his room wouldn't come and make trouble for no reason, would he? It was only the beginning of the month. There were 20 more days until the next month. Uncle Lee was not in a hurry. He cultivated in peace. Time flew by in a blink of an eye. Soon, 10 days had passed. The 10 days were peaceful. Uncle Lee could put his mind at ease. As long as he didn't make trouble, he should be fine. On the 13th day, Luli came out from closed-door cultivation. He was overjoyed. Finally, he had made a breakthrough in the cryptic spirit realm. He had evolved to a brand new state. In this state, he felt absolute quietness, as if the whole world had disappeared and everything had stopped. In this state, he would feel tranquil, and the speed of learning would be greatly increased. Ethereal realm, cryptic spirit realm. This state is more advanced. What should I call it? Luli thought about it. He remembered the wonderful scene just now. For words came out of his mouth, Dreamland. The state of Dreamland didn't increase his abilities, but it was a powerful skill that could assist him in cultivation. In this state, his speed of learning fundamental principles of a law would be dozens of times faster. That was to say, if it would take him decades to learn a law, he could do it in 1 or 2 years in this state. Luli was not the only one who had this state. Many people had it. Ling Qingyan and Pan Yuqin had such skills. However, the speed of cultivation varied, depending on the level of the skill. Luli was satisfied that the speed of the state of Dreamland could be increased by at least 30 times. He rested for a while and then tried to learn fundamental principles of a law to see the effect of the state of Dreamland. The effect was good. However, Luli was interrupted after one day. The inhibition formation in the cave glowed. When he woke up, he and Uncle Lee looked at each other. Both were surprised. Then, they put their guards up. Luli got up and opened the inhibition formation. Uncle Lee had a weapon in his hand. But when he saw that it was just an average warrior, Uncle Lee put away his weapon and walked out with Luli. Or Li Tian and Luli, right? The warrior had a name list in his hand. He looked at Lu Li and Li Tian coldly and asked. Li Tian cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Yes, it is us. What can I do for you?" "Gather at the Cyan's Sun Peak." The warrior waved his hand and said, "Go with Commander Yang and Commander Chun to hunt beasts of primordial chaos. We need to feed the demons in the Tower of Monsters." Hunt beasts of primordial chaos? Uncle Lee and Luli frowned. They remembered that when they first arrived at the Mountain of Clouds, the warrior mentioned that he would occasionally go out to hunt beasts of primordial chaos and that some warriors would be recruited. They were recruited as soon as they arrived. Something is wrong. Lu Li and Uncle Lee looked at each other. Both remembered the leader with the braid. Could it be that person's doing? Did he pick their names to kill them during the beasts of primordial chaos? What are you waiting for? The warrior waved his hand impatiently. Pointing to a mountain in the distance, he said, "That is the Cyan's Sun Peak. Many people have gathered there. Go there now." "Yes." Lu Li and Uncle Lee clenched their teeth and cupped their fists. Then they walked toward the mountain. They could see from the distance that there were many people there. There should be more than 100. There were more coming from the other mountains. The braid. When Luli arrived at the foot of the Cyan Sun Peak, he looked up and saw the leader with the braid. Luli and Uncle Lee's hearts skipped a beat. This was a trap. The braid leader was trying to kill them. Damn it. Chapter 1830. Not to mention that Uncle Lee used to be a team leader in the Hall of Combat of the Black Flame Hall. The leader with the braid was strong, more powerful than Yuan Bing. That being said, if Uncle Lee were to risk his life, it was possible that Uncle Lee would perish together with him. Uncle Lee took out a bamboo slip handed it to Lu Li, and said, "This has information about my daughter. Master, please take care of her if something bad happens to me." "Okay." Lu Li nodded and put away the bamboo slip. He said solemnly, "Let's play it by ear. Do not do anything unless it is absolutely necessary. Let it go for now. As long as we can get the iron or bronze token, this leader will not do anything to us." Lu Li and Uncle Li communicated with each other while walking. Soon, they arrived at the Cyan Sun Peak. They stood in a corner and waited for the others to gather. The leader with the braid didn't even look at Lu Li and Uncle Li as if he didn't know they were there, and this matter had nothing to do with him. Apart from the leader with the braid, there were two other team leaders. More and more people came. After an hour, almost everyone was here. A soldier began to take roll call according to the name list. After a round of roll call, the soldier reported, "Commanders, the 300 people conscripted this time are all here." "Okay, let's go to the peak of the sun." An old man with a slightly stooped back waved his hand, and the 300 men followed the 3 commanders and 30 soldiers into the interior of Sky Cloud Mountain. "Where are we going to hunt beasts of primordial chaos? Don't teleport out to sea." Lu Li and Uncle Li looked at each other. Once again, they were worried. If they were to go out to sea, they might run into scouts left by Yin Hong. If they were discovered and Yin Hong was hiding nearby, they would be killed instantly without a chance to run away. The hundreds of people crossed more than a dozen mountains and finally arrived at a tall peak. Since they were led by team leaders and warriors, they didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. Halfway up the peak of the sun, there was a huge castle. Lu Li and Uncle Li used psychic power to check and found a huge teleportation portal inside. Lu Li and Uncle Li were even more worried. If they were teleported to the sea outside of the Omen Island, then it was highly likely that they would be discovered by scouts of the Hall of Black Flame. "Let's go in." The older commander waved his hand and said, "Once you enter, you are free to fight. Hunt the chaos beasts. Try to catch them alive. As long as each person could capture 100 2-star chaos beasts or kill 1,000 2-star chaos beasts. Or you can capture 10 3-star chaos beasts and hunt down 100 3-star chaos beasts. Then, your mission will be accomplished. Capture 10 3-star chaos beasts?" Lu Li and Uncle Li were speechless. 3-star beasts of primordial chaos were hard enough to kill, let alone capture them alive? Did this commander think that they were all third tribulation deities? Groups of people rushed into the portal. Lu Li and Uncle Li purposely lagged behind. Although they had the advantage, it was safer this way. After a flash of white light, Lu Li and Uncle Li appeared on a small island. The island was too small, and one could see the surrounding sea region at a glance. Apart from the teleportation array, there was nothing else on the island. Not bad. Lu Li and Uncle Li looked at each other and relaxed a bit. This was not outside of Heavenly Devil Island, but within a mystic realm. This mystic realm was very big and was surrounded by a blue ocean. It was not the ocean outside. Whoosh, 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 those that entered the mystic realm flew to all sides. Many went into the ocean. There were battles in the ocean to the southwest. Those that came in earlier began to hunt beasts of primordial chaos. "Let's go." Uncle Li threw a look to the commander with the braid who was standing on the side and flew to the north with Lu Li. A couple of miles later, Uncle Li said to Lu Li, "Let's fly further away and change our direction. We'll go to the south. We'll keep moving around. It will be more troublesome for that commander to find us when we are in the ocean. We must kill enough beasts of primordial chaos and come back." "Okay." Lu Li nodded. They flew on for 300 miles and took a detour to the south. This mystic realm was still very big, and it would be difficult to find them easily. Bang! The two of them flew for tens of thousands of miles, and when they took a detour to the east, the seawater under the sea surged, and a big fish with sharp spikes on its head swooped up. It opened its big mouth, revealing its neat and sharp teeth, which were suffused with cold air. "Piss off!" Uncle Li smashed at the fish with his sword and smashed it to the bottom of the ocean. This was only a 2-star chaos beast, not a match for Uncle Li. "Let's go." Uncle Li did not linger. He took Lu Li to the south. An hour later, they arrived at an area of the ocean. This area was at least hundreds of thousands of miles away from the island. It would be difficult for that commander to find them. Let's go. Uncle Lee looked around and waved his hand at Luli with relief. They dashed into the ocean like two sharp swords. They used psychic power to check for beasts of primordial chaos. On their way, they saw many beasts of primordial chaos. The most powerful ones were 3-star beasts of primordial chaos, not particularly strong. It seemed that the beasts of primordial chaos in the mystic realm were not strong. This was a place for breeding low-level beasts of primordial chaos to provide food for the demons in the Tower of Monsters. Soon, they found beasts of primordial chaos, not just one, but a group of 2-star beasts of primordial chaos. They were a group of strange creatures like monkeys but with big tails and shark fins. Capture or kill? Luli asked Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee made a gesture of killing and said, "Capturing is too troublesome. We need to kill the beasts of primordial chaos quickly. If we run into powerful 3-star beasts of primordial chaos, we can run. Just look for the beasts of primordial chaos that are easy to kill. If we are lucky, we can kill all 2,000 beasts in a day or two." Okay, Luli nodded. 2-star beasts of primordial chaos were easy to kill, and it would not take them much time. They just needed to look for more. They could wander around in order to avoid being tracked by the commander with the braid. Uncle Lee dashed into the group of beasts of primordial chaos. There were more than 30 beasts of primordial chaos there. They came over as soon as they saw Uncle Lee. Buzzing, Luli took out the mountain and released worms of the void. When hundreds of millions of worms of the void were gathered around him, Luli rushed forward with the worms of the void. Whoosh, whoosh, 5 or 6 beasts of primordial chaos came toward Luli. He waved his hand, and the worms of the void spread out and surrounded the beasts of primordial chaos. Soon, the beasts of primordial chaos began to roll around in pain. Luli controlled the worms of the void to eat the souls of the beasts of primordial chaos. In the time for a few breaths, the beasts of primordial chaos were killed. Luli threw the bodies of the beasts of primordial chaos into the mountain. Bang, bang, bang. Uncle Lee was fast as well. He had killed more than a dozen beasts of primordial chaos. Every time he swung his sword, he could kill one beast of primordial chaos. 2-star beasts of primordial chaos were weak in defense. Luli didn't even have to do anything. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, the remaining beasts of primordial chaos were all killed. Uncle Lee put away the bodies of the beasts of primordial chaos and said, "Let's go." They moved on quickly. Luli thought to himself that if they could keep this up, they might be able to finish the task in half a day instead of a day or two. Luli was overthinking. He had just moved on for several miles when he saw a huge beast rushing toward them at a horrifying speed. Luli could tell by the size of the beast that they had encountered a 3-star beast of primordial chaos. Chapter 1831. You cannot get away. Charge. Uncle Lee realized that the beast of primordial chaos was much faster than them. Knowing that they could not avoid it, Uncle Lee hoped that the beast of primordial chaos would not be too strong. That was a beast of primordial chaos in the shape of a sea lion. It did not look like a creature from the bottom of the sea. It had a pair of wings on its back and a horn on its head, similar to a king-level wild beast in the Divinity. Before the beast of primordial chaos got close, Luli and Uncle Lee felt their blood was affected by the beast of primordial chaos. This beast of primordial chaos is strange. Uncle Lee said to Luli, "Master, stay away. I will deal with it. Find a chance to help me." Luli felt his blood was boiling. His heart was pounding at a horrifying rate. He felt all his blood vessels were going to burst and his blood was going to gush out. Whoosh! Luli stepped back quickly. Uncle Lee rushed forward with his sword. At the same time, he took out the black flag, which turned into a rope and wrapped it around the beast of primordial chaos. His black flag was a treasure of primordial chaos, but it was not meant for attack. It could only be used as a support. Whoosh, the rope flew over. Uncle Lee dashed over with his sword. The sea lion flapped its wings. The seawater was tumbling and surging toward them. The rope was lifted. Uncle Lee was slowed down. At some point, he was even pushed back. Whoosh! A dark hole appeared in the middle of the sea lion's eyes. A ray of dark light shot out and went into Uncle Lee's head. Soul attack. Lu Li raised his eyebrows and shouted, "Uncle Lee, watch out!" Uncle Lee could not hear Lu Li's voice. His eyes were glazed over. Clearly, he had been hit. The sea lion in the distance flapped its wings, and its body smashed toward Uncle Lee like a meteor. The horn on its head slammed violently toward him. Bang! Uncle Lee felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. Blood spilled out from his mouth. He was smashed away for more than 30 miles. When he came back to his senses, he swung his sword and smashed at the sea lion's head. Bang! The sea lion's head was as hard as a relic weapon. Uncle Lee's sword bounced back. Uncle Lee's eyes turned, his body flipped up, and he flew onto the sea lion's head. With one hand, he grabbed its huge horn and swung his heavy sword continuously. Chi-chi! Another black hole appeared in the sea lion's eyes, and a black light flew out. This time, the black light could change direction, and it went around in an arc to hit Uncle Lee again. Then, the sea lion swung its head forcefully, and Uncle Lee was easily flung away. The sea lion's body violently collided with Uncle Lee, sending him flying. Shio! Lu Li made his move. Uncle Lee was no match for the sea lions. The worms of the void had to take action. As long as the void worm entered this chaos beast's soul spirit, it should not be difficult to kill this chaos beast. More importantly, the strongest mode of attack of the beasts of primordial chaos was soul attacks, which Lu Li was least afraid of. As long as he was on the sea lion's head, he was confident that he could severely injure it. He flew over quietly and approached the sea lions. Uncle Lee came back to his senses and saw Lu Li approaching. He looked at Lu Li and knew what Lu Li was thinking. He didn't continue to attack. Instead, he dodged left and right and burrowed under the sea lion's belly to distract it and create a chance for Lu Li. Whoosh! Once again, the sea lion shot out dark blurs at Uncle Lee. Lu Li's eyes glowed. This was the best chance. He dashed over like a sharp sword and landed on the sea lion's head. The sea lion had already noticed Lu Li, but it didn't mind. Lu Li's chi and energy were weak. Would a big fish care about a small shrimp approaching it? Buzzing, Lu Li landed on the sea lion's head and grabbed its horn. Countless worms of the void were released from the mountain, and they entered the sea lion's head. Roar! The sea lion sensed danger. It bellowed, but didn't attack Uncle Lee. A black hole appeared in its eyes. A ray of dark blur flew out and hit Lu Li. Then, the sea lion shook its head violently, trying to throw Lu Li away. However, Lu Li had a firm grip on its horn. The soul attack had no effect on Lu Li. The dark energy entered Lu Li's soul and was devoured by the dragon's soul. Eat to your heart's content. When hundreds of millions of worms of the void were in the sea lion's head, Lu Li gave the order. At the same time, he stomped on the sea lion's head and flew away. Roar, roar! The worms of the void began to attack. No matter how strong the sea lion's body was, its soul could not stand the gnawing of the worms of the void. The sea lion bellowed in pain and smashed into a hill in front of it. Boom! The hill was smashed into pieces. The sea lion didn't stop and dashed on. In a blink, it was gone. Master, should we go after it? Uncle Lee flew up and asked. Lu Li shook his head and replied, "The beasts of primordial chaos are too fast. It will take us a long time to track them down. We might as well kill more 2-star beasts of primordial chaos." "You are right. Let's go." Uncle Lee took 2 healing pellets and exclaimed as he moved on, "Master, your enchanted soul is impressive. The soul attack of the beasts of primordial chaos is strong. Master, you're not affected at all." "Not bad," Lu Li answered. He thought about it and asked, "Uncle Lee, do you know anything about enchanted souls? What rank is considered a powerful enchanted soul?" "There is no strict definition," Uncle Lee answered. "As far as I know, enchanted souls above the 3rd rank are powerful enough. If you can get a 4th or 5th rank enchanted soul, then your soul defense will be strong. Also, Master, what rank is your enchanted soul? I don't know. Maybe 3rd or 4th rank. Luli told a lie. Inside, he was shocked. Emperor Z once said that his enchanted soul was at least of the 7th rank and possibly of the 8th rank. Uncle Lee said that 3rd or 4th rank enchanted souls were powerful enough. Wasn't his dragon soul some kind of treasure? What was the background of the Lu Ling family? How powerful were they? A newborn girl could be given a 7th or 8th rank enchanted soul. Have you been to the 3rd heaven? Uncle Lee stayed at the Black Flame Hall all year round. He must have some knowledge about the forces at the 2nd or 3rd heaven. Based on the Dragon Soul's analysis, the Lu Ling family might not be a force at the 2nd heaven. It could be a super family at the 3rd heaven. I have been there twice. I went with Yin Hong both times. Uncle Lee said, given my abilities, I am not qualified to live at the 3rd heaven. Yin Hong is qualified, but Yin Hong would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. He didn't go there. Lee's eyes glowed. He asked in a hurry, do you know any force or family at the 3rd heaven that has the word N-I in its name? N-I? Uncle Lee was in deep thoughts. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, he slapped his head and said, there is a mysterious super family called the Dragon Rebel Valley. This family is very powerful. It is an overlord at the 3rd heaven. Dragon Rebel Valley? There is a word N-I, and also dragon. Chapter 1832. Luli had one regret. After he became a supreme warrior in the divinity, he never had the time to go to the Mountain of Dragons. When he went to the Mountain of Dragons, the old warrior told him that as long as he became a supreme warrior in the divinity, he would be qualified to go to the Mountain of Dragons and meet Lu Ling. After the Heaven's Tribulation, Luli had been dealing with demons. He had no time to go to the Mountain of Dragons. After the demons were defeated, Zhuo began to stir up trouble. Later on, he went to the 2nd heaven. Luli was almost forced to move forward with a whip. He did not even have time to take a breath. Sometimes he wondered if there was a hand controlling his life, arranging paths of death for him and forcing him to take them. Would he die if he could not make it? Would his entire family suffer? Of course, this was just a thought. He used to think that he was a big shot, a genius. However, he gave up on this idea after he learned how many heavens there were in the world. This world was just too big, and there were just too many experts in it. Many of them were so powerful that he could not imagine them. Many geniuses were hundreds of times more powerful than he was. He was just a nobody. Why would the super warriors care about him? Controlling his life on purpose? That being said, who was the mysterious warrior that saved him several times? Who taught him the skill to fly in the void? Lu Ling's family was so powerful. Why did she end up in the Heaven Reverse universe? Luli was puzzled by all kinds of questions. This made him wonder if it was because he was not strong enough. Only when he was strong enough could many questions be answered. Whoosh whoosh. While Luli was thinking, a group of beasts of primordial chaos appeared in front of him. They were similar to octopuses. They were not strong in size or energy. One look, and Luli could tell that they were 2-star beasts of primordial chaos. There were dozens of them. Uncle Lee dashed out. 2-star beasts of primordial chaos were easy to kill. It was like fighting a supreme warrior in the divinity. For someone like Uncle Lee, killing supreme warriors in the divinity was as easy as snapping his fingers. Luli saw Uncle Lee dashing into the group of beasts of primordial chaos and killing them effortlessly. Luli didn't even bother to attack. He just watched from a distance. Luli was still thinking. He thought about the divinity again. He wondered what was going on there. Had all the Lu family warriors been relocated to the land of Yuyin? Since Yin Hong could not kill him, would he send people to the lower bound to kill his clansmen? But before coming here, Ling Qingyin gave him a jade talisman. The jade talisman had yet to shatter. If it did, it would mean that something had happened. Therefore, the situation in the immortal realm should not be too bad. At the very least, his family should be fine. Let's go. While Luli was deep in thought, Uncle Lee's words alarmed him. Uncle Lee had killed all the beasts of primordial chaos. His efficiency was high. Luli snuck forward and followed Uncle Lee. The two of them did not have a sense of direction either. Anyway, they were not heading north. Instead, they were going around randomly. There were many chaos beasts in this mystic realm. Every 5 minutes, they would encounter a chaos beast. There were more 2-star chaos beasts here and fewer 3-star chaos beasts. Basically, it was Uncle Lee who dealt with them. Half a day later, the two of them had already killed close to 1,000 chaos beasts. All of them were 2-star chaos beasts. It was not that the two of them did not encounter any 3-star chaos beasts. In this half a day, the two of them had encountered more than 10 3-star chaos beasts. The two of them did not waste much energy or time. If they could avoid the chaos beasts, they would do so. If they could not, they would injure the chaos beasts and quickly leave. What the two of them needed was time. They had to finish their task as soon as possible so that they could go back to the island. In this case, the leader with the braid would not be able to do anything even if he wanted to do something. He could not attack Lu Li and Lu Li in front of the other two leaders, could he? Continue to wander, continue to hunt. 2 hours later, the two of them ran into a team of 7 or 8 warriors. They must have formed a team to hunt. Lu Li and Uncle Lee were on guard at once, but when they sensed them, they took a detour. In the next couple of hours, the two of them ran into some more 3-star chaos beasts, but none that were particularly powerful. Lu Li and Uncle Lee worked together and drove the 3-star chaos beasts away. The two of them continued to look for 2-star chaos beasts to kill. 1 day later, the two of them had killed more than 1,800 2-star chaos beasts. The leader with the braid never showed up, which was a relief to the two of them. If they were lucky, they could finish the remaining 100 or so 2-star chaos beasts in 2 hours. By then, the two of them could fly back to the island, and everything would be fine. We are in luck. After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, Uncle Lee sensed a group of chaos beasts up ahead with psychic power. There were at least 60 or 70 of them. They were strange fish with tentacles. They did not seem to be strong. Lu Li cheered up. After killing the 60 or 70 chaos beasts, he only needed to look around. This time, Lu Li did not just watch. He went into the mountain and followed Uncle Lee. Uncle Lee began to slaughter the chaos beasts. Lu Li flew the mountain into the chaos beasts and released worms of the void. After all, there were many worms of the void. Tens of millions of them could kill more than a dozen chaos beasts at once. With Lu Li's help, the number of chaos beasts increased. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, more than half of the 60 or 70 chaos beasts were killed. Lu Li put away the worms of the void in case Uncle Lee was accidentally hurt. Master, come out and put away the 9 strange mountain. Someone is coming. Lu Li heard Uncle Lee's voice. He dashed out and put away the 9 strange mountains at once. He scanned the area with his spiritual force and saw a martial artist flying towards him at high speed. Behind him was a huge creature, 3-star beast of chaos. Lu Li frowned. That warrior must have been driven into a corner by the 3-star beast of chaos and had to ask for help. Lu Li looked at Uncle Lee and asked, "Should we go or not?" Lu Li did not want to care about others' lives. This 3-star beast of chaos seemed to be powerful. They did not want to be dragged down by this person. Uncle Lee kept swinging his sword to kill the remaining chaos beasts. He said with a bitter smile, "I don't think we can go. That beast of chaos has locked onto us. It is very likely that it will come after us. Let's work together with this person and hurt it." Sure, Lu Li could feel the chi and energy of the beast of chaos enveloping them. It must have locked onto them. More importantly, that person was running toward them in a straight line. Even if they ran away, that person would follow them. "Brothers, help me kill this beast of chaos. I will reward you handsomely." The warrior shouted from afar. Uncle Lee put away all the bodies of the chaos beasts nearby. He looked at Lu Li and said, "You watch on the side. I will go." Whoosh! Uncle Lee rushed over. That warrior stopped as well and worked together with Uncle Lee to attack the beast of chaos. Lu Li snuck over and went to the other side of the beast of chaos. He released the ghost slayer and used the pressure in heaven and earth to slow down the beast of chaos. Eh? Uncle Lee suddenly said in surprise. Luli's expressions changed as well. That warrior had snuck into the distance. He had run away by himself. *T. Luli was furious. They were kind enough to help this man fight off the beast of chaos. How could he run away without them? No, this is a scheme. Chapter 1833. It would not be a big deal if it was just that one person had run away. But now, someone had attracted 2 3-star beasts of primordial chaos. Uncle Lee would not believe that there was nothing wrong. Luli and Uncle Lee could not defeat 3 3-star beasts of primordial chaos. If Luli had not given Uncle Lee's primordial chaos to Ling Qingyin, Uncle Lee might have had a chance. Without the weapon, Uncle Lee's abilities would be weakened. It would be difficult for him to kill 3-star beasts of primordial chaos. Once Uncle Lee was entangled with the 3 beasts of primordial chaos, he would die for sure. As for Luli, his situation was even worse. The 9-strange mountain was not complete. It could not withstand the continuous attacks from the beasts of primordial chaos. Luli's defense was even weaker. If he was attacked by 3-star beasts of primordial chaos, he would probably die. Uncle Lee and Luli looked at each other. Without any hesitation, their first thought was to run away. Uncle Lee said to Luli at once, "Master, you go first. I will cover you. Take care of my daughter for me in the future." "Let's go together," Luli said. "You go into the mountain, and I will use the worms of the void to stop them. We still have a chance to run away. The problem is that the 9-strange mountain will be exposed," Uncle Lee said anxiously. Luli dashed into the mountain and flew toward Uncle Lee. He said, "So be it. It doesn't matter if the 9-strange mountain is taken away. The 9-strange mountain will not be of much use until we find the other 3 mountains. I need you alive." Uncle Lee felt his eyes were brimming with tears when he heard the last sentence. Yin Hong had abandoned Uncle Lee without any hesitation. Compared to Lu Li, Yin Hong's actions were worlds apart. Uncle Lee was Lu Li's soul slave. For Lu Li, a soul slave was no different from a spiritual beast. Since Lu Li had made up his mind, Uncle Lee could not say more. The mountain glowed as Uncle Lee went in. Then, Lu Li released the worms of the void like crazy. As he did so, he controlled the mountain and ordered the worms of the void to attack all the living beings nearby. Roar! Some 3-star beasts of primordial chaos were intelligent. They swung their tails at the mountain, and it was smashed away. Little 6 voice transmission rang out. "Master, if you attack a few more times, the 6 sacred mountains will crumble, I know." Lu Li replied. He used psychic power to check the beast of primordial chaos. However, as the worm of void attacked, the beast of primordial chaos stopped and began to attack the worm of void with its tail. Xiao! From the distance, a warrior flew over. He was dumbfounded. Since Lu Li and Uncle Lee had gone into the mountain, the beasts of primordial chaos behind them had been focusing on him. The chaos beast on this side had also discovered him. What's more, this chaos beast had been attacked by the void worm and was extremely enraged. There were also countless void worms flying around. Hundreds of millions of void worms were flying towards him. "Go!" Lu Li flew the mountain to the bottom of the sea quietly. He did not dare to go too fast. Therefore, the 3 beasts of primordial chaos did not pay attention to the mountain. After all, there was no aura of life on the God Mountain. Although the chaos beasts were intelligent, there was still a human there. Naturally, they would attack that human first. All right. After flying for several miles, Lu Li sped up the mountain of 9 wonders to the extreme. However, after flying for 300 miles, both Lu Li and Uncle Lee felt a strong psychic power. That psychic power is strong. Is it from that leader? Lu Li and Uncle Lee looked at each other. There was a hint of killing intent in the psychic power. Lu Li thought for a while and then flew the mountain toward the sea. Buzzing, Lu Li and Uncle Lee flew out from the mountain. They were bursting with energy and flew toward the north in an ostentatious manner. Both of them suspected that the psychic power was from that leader with the braid. Therefore, they did not dare to take the risk. Flying to the sea and releasing their energy could attract many people's attention. That braided commander probably wouldn't dare to be so bold as to openly kill the two of them. They had killed almost 1,900 beasts of primordial chaos. Now that they were near the island, they could find some beasts of primordial chaos to complete their task. Therefore, the most pressing matter at hand was to get back to the island in case the leader with the braid made trouble. It's okay. They flew for thousands of miles. Nobody was following them. They were relieved. Because they were flying high, they did not alarm the beasts of primordial chaos at the bottom of the sea, even though they were bursting with energy. 2 hours later, they could vaguely see the island in the distance. Lu Li and Uncle Li were relieved. Uncle Li stopped and said, "How about we go down and find some beasts of primordial chaos to make up the numbers?" "Sure." Lu Li nodded. The island was dozens of miles away. They could get there soon. They should be safe here. They were sure of more than 100 beasts of primordial chaos. They could find some nearby. They went down to the bottom of the sea and wandered around. It was a pity that all the beasts of primordial chaos nearby had been killed. They only found more than a dozen beasts of primordial chaos after the time for one incense stick to burn. It was impossible for them to go back. They continued to wander around the island and expanded their search range. 2 hours later, they finally killed more than 100 beasts of primordial chaos. They checked the interspatial rings with psychic power to make sure that the number was correct. Both of them were relieved. They had passed this round. As long as they could go back and pass the first level of the Tower of Monster Entrapment and get the Iron Token, they would be safe. "Let's go." They flew toward the sea. Before they got to the surface, Uncle Li frowned. Lu Li checked with psychic power. His face was clouded as well. There was a team of warriors on the sea. The leader with the braid was on the team. The warrior that lured over the beasts of primordial chaos but ran away on his own was on the team as well. Lu Li and Uncle Li made up their minds and flew up. When they got to the surface, Uncle Li flew to the leader with the braid. Standing hundreds of feet in front of him, Uncle Li cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Commander." Lu Li bowed as well, but said nothing. He wanted to see what the leader was up to. "Is it them?" The leader with the braid pointed to Uncle Li and Lu Li and asked the warrior that ran away. That warrior nodded and said with grief and indignation, "Yes, Commander Yang, it is them. They lured over 3 3-star beasts of primordial chaos and killed my brother." Lu Li and Uncle Li's eyes were wide open, as if they had seen a ghost. How could this man turn the truth upside down and make false accusations? Lu Li and Uncle Li were amazed by his ability to lie through his teeth. Commander Yang looked at Lu Li and Uncle Li coldly and said, "Why did you do such a nasty thing? What is the punishment for killing a fellow disciple?" "Ha ha." Lu Li and Uncle Li sneered to themselves. So, it wasn't that warrior who was turning the truth upside down. It was Commander Yang who told him to say this on purpose. Clearly, Commander Yang was looking for trouble and provoking Lu Li and Uncle Li so that he could kill them on the spot. "Master, don't be angry." Uncle Li was afraid that Lu Li was young and impetuous. He said to Lu Li, "Once we get angry and offend him, he will have an excuse to kill us. I will deal with him." Lu Li didn't act on impulse. He was not stupid enough to give Commander Yang a chance. They didn't do such a thing. Even if they did, they wouldn't be qualified to enforce the law. Lu Li would like to see how this Commander Yang would make trouble. Chapter 1834. Receiving Lu Li's confirmation, Uncle Li cupped his fists and said calmly, "Commander Yang, we have never harmed our brothers. There was such a thing, but..." Before Uncle Li could finish, Commander Yang interrupted him. "You admit to this?" Uncle Li and Lu Li were speechless. If it were any other situation, they wouldn't bother to explain. After all, words were useless. They could just start the fight. But Uncle Li knew that he must make it clear this time. They would not give Commander Yang any chance to stir up trouble. Uncle Lee cupped his fists and said, "I did not admit it. On the contrary, Commander Yang, you believe the rumor. It was this man who attracted a 3-star beast of chaos. I was going to help him kill it, but he ran away. Another man attracted 2 beasts of chaos. My uncle and nephew knew that we could not win, so we ran away. We don't know if the other man is dead or alive." Bullsh asterisk T. The warrior who made the false accusation shouted, "It was you and your uncle who attracted 3 3-star beasts of chaos and ran away. How can you turn the truth upside down?" Luli was angry. This guy was getting ahead of himself. But Luli suppressed his anger on the thought that Commander Yang was doing this on purpose to infuriate them. Uncle Lee did the same. He said with a cold smile, "You can always find a pretext to frame someone. Have you lost your conscience to the beasts of chaos?" Commander Yang's eyes flickered. He looked at Uncle Lee and asked, "Do you have any proof to prove what you said?" "Proof to hell." Luli almost burst out into abuse. He couldn't help but ask, "Then do you have any proof to prove that what he said is true or false?" "Commander Yang, you cannot just listen to one side of the story. Who do you think you are?" Commander Yang glared at Luli coldly and scolded, "Did I ask you a question? How dare you question me? Are you courting death?" "You..." Luli almost lost his temper. Fortunately, he was a man who had been through great storms. He was not an average playboy. It was clear that Commander Yang was trying to provoke him. If Luli dared to be impulsive, he would be playing into Commander Yang's hands. Luli sneered to himself. He calmed down and said no more. Uncle Lee was even calmer. He used to be the commander of the Black Flame Hall's battle hall and had seen many of these methods. After a moment of silence, Uncle Lee said, "Commander Yang, I'd like to ask something. There should be a hall of penal law and punishment in Sky Cloud Mountain, right? Shouldn't this be handled by the hall of beheadings and executions?" Commander Yang was taken aback. He didn't expect that Luli could keep his composure. He had 7 or 8 warriors with him. Luli and Uncle Lee were not breaking the rules. Uncle Lee couldn't do anything in front of the warriors, could he? With a calm face, he said, "Of course there is. After I've investigated this matter and determined who among you is guilty, I'll report it to the Hall of Penal Law for trial." "All right, then." Uncle Lee shrugged and said, "Now that both sides have testified, no one is willing to accept the other. I suggest we report this to the Hall of Punishment and have the elders there search his soul. When the time comes, everything will be clear. If it's our fault for framing someone, the Hall of Beheadings and Executions will sentence us to death." Ugh! That cultivator, who had been beaten up, started to panic. Once his soul was searched, everything would be exposed. At that time, he would most likely die. He didn't know how to deal with this. He turned to Commander Yang. Commander Yang was panicking as well. It was true that he was the mastermind of this. Once he was sent to the Hall of Penal Law and the warrior's soul was searched, his mastermind would be exposed. Even though he was a commander, the Hall of Penal Law wouldn't let this go. They might kill him right away. Uncle Lee's move was vicious. Not only did it resolve the crisis, but it also made Commander Yang go for wool and come home shorn. One careless move, and Commander Yang would be in trouble. There were still some warriors here. Commander Yang couldn't do anything by force, could he? There were 2 commanders on the island. If things got out of hand, there would be no way out. Seeing that Commander Yang was silent, Li Tian didn't press on. He didn't force Commander Yang to take desperate measures. Li Tian and Lu Li stood on the side, waiting quietly. If the commander wanted to keep the peace, then the matter would be over. After a moment of silence, Commander Yang asked the warrior next to him, "Do you have the courage to go to the Hall of Penal Law?" The warrior was anxious. Commander Yang was asking him to go to the Hall of Penal Law. Wasn't that asking him to die? The warrior dodged Commander Yang's eyes and said, "Commander, we don't have to take this to the Hall of Penal Law. You can just make a decision on the spot. I don't have a right, and I will not abuse my power," Commander Yang said with righteousness. Then, he looked at the warrior coldly and said, "So, you have a guilty conscience? Is what they said true? You framed them on purpose? You harmed them, and now you want to put the blame on them?" "I did not." The warrior was in a panic. How come Commander Yang changed his attitude so quickly. It was Commander Yang who asked him to do this. How come he had to take the blame now? The warriors said at once, "Commander, don't you know the truth?" "What I know?" Commander Yang said coldly. "I will ask you again. Do you have the courage to go to the Hall of Penal Law and confront me?" Intimidated by Commander Yang's power, the warrior couldn't say a word. If he said he didn't have the courage, it meant that he had a guilty conscience. If he said he did, he would die for sure. "How dare you?" Chapter 1835. The mission was completed. Lu Li and Uncle Li waited on the island, while Commander Yang went to patrol outside the island. He did not make trouble for Lu Li and the others. By the time everyone finished their mission, it had been 5 or 6 days. 7 or 8 of them had died. They must have been killed by powerful 3-star beasts of chaos. The 3 captains teleported back with the others. Lu Li and Uncle Li went back to their own caves. After this experience, they were even more determined to pass the first level of the Tower of Monsters and get the Iron Token. Otherwise, sooner or later, they would be killed by Commander Yang. Commander Yang would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. This time, Lu Li and Uncle Li had forced him into such a difficult situation that they even killed their own people. Commander Yang would not let it go. Now that he was a commander, Lu Li and Uncle Li could not do anything to him. What was more, he was strong. Lu Li and Uncle Li could not kill him instantly. Therefore, they had to get the Iron Token first. When they came back, Lu Li and Uncle Li cultivated in the cave and did not go anywhere else. They would go to the Tower of Monsters at the beginning of the month. Lu Li did not know what fundamental principle to learn from the land of illusion. He had to cultivate divine energy, consume soul-nurturing pellets, and recall the fundamental principles of killing moves he knew to see if he could improve them in some aspects. If only there were places with thunderbolts, then I could improve my body. Even if I was half as strong as Emperor Z, I would be able to walk around the second heaven at will, not to mention Emperor Z's level. Lu Li sorted out his thoughts. He believed there should be 2 steps in his cultivation. The first was to improve his body infinitely, and the second was to find a way to make the Slayer's Ghost Chop have more turns. With each turn, the power of the Slayer's Ghost Chop would be multiplied. If it could reach the 10th turn, Lu Li believed that he could defeat the entire second heaven. Thunderbolts? How is Little White? The thought of thunderbolts reminded Lu Li of Little White. He felt guilty. He came to the second heaven in such a hurry that he did not even have time to find Little White. Little White was in the midst of the thunderbolts. Lu Li did not dare to ask Ling Qingyan to go find it. Little White must be waiting for him to come back. But he left without saying goodbye. Little White must be devastated. Forget it. Little White will go down to the divinities soon. Whitey's defense is so strong that no one in the divine world can hurt it. Lu Li shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He came to the second heaven because he had no other choice. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't care too much. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the start of the month. Lu Li and Uncle Li didn't go to Chief Wang right away. They set off the next day, went to the castle, and met Chief Wang. "You're also going to the Yao Ceiling Tower?" Chief Commander Wang glanced at Lu Li and said in a mocking tone. After a while, he could not help but remind Lu Li, "Young man, I advise you not to bite off more than you can chew. It is not easy for you to reach this realm. Don't lose your life." Lu Li bowed and said, "Thank you for your warning, Chief Commander Wang. I insist." If he didn't try, he would be killed by Commander Yang sooner or later. Uncle Li went to investigate the situation in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. As long as he didn't act rashly, even if he couldn't pass, there was a chance he could survive. "Xiao Lu, go and make the arrangements." Chief Commander Wang waved his hand. A warrior took Lu Li and Uncle Li away, but asked them to wait outside the castle. More and more people came, and they were all brought to Lu Li and Uncle Li to wait. Many warriors glanced at Lu Li. They didn't say anything, but they all grinned coldly. Clearly, They thought Lu Li was overestimating himself and courting death by going to the Yao Ceiling Tower. Lu Li didn't mind others' looks. He waited quietly on the side. After a full 6 hours, 50 to 60 people had gathered. That soldier finally waved his hand and said, "All of you, follow us. Take note, do not wander around on the road, and do not use your divine perception. If you anger the lords and get killed, don't blame me for not warning you." The 3 warriors led the way, and the others followed quickly. Nobody dared to fly. They went around one mountain after another. Inside the mountain, Lu Li and Uncle Li didn't dare to use psychic power. They could only look around. There were not too many people living in the mountain. Castles were built in the mountain. Clearly, the treatment here was different from that of the people outside. For many warriors, where they lived didn't matter. That being said, the difference in strength and status brought about by the difference in power could be seen. In the 18 mountains, the xianqi in heaven and earth was much richer. The deeper they went, the richer the xianqi was. When Lu Li and Uncle Li saw a huge mountain that reached the clouds, the xianqi in heaven and earth had reached an unbelievable level. It is said that the xianqi at the peak of the mountain is as rich as the primordial realm. Lu Li finally had a first-hand experience. The xianqi at the peak of the mountain should be at least 1,000 times richer than outside. The speed of cultivating divine energy up there was 1,000 times faster than outside. This was indeed a mountain of fairy energy. This mountain was very steep, and there was a winding mountain road that circled around it. This mountain felt like a terraced field, with layers upon layers of white fog surrounding it. Looking from a distance, there were rows of castles or caves looming in and out of sight. There were people moving around. Lu Li could see the hope in people's eyes. This was the real Cloud Mountain. To be able to live in this mountain would not only be beneficial for cultivation, but also enjoy a high status. Even a commander would have to salute them, not to mention these warriors. Tower of Demon Subduing. A tower at the foot of the mountain caught Lu Li's attention. This tower was strange. Not only was it not as tall or towering as Lu Li had imagined, but it was tilted. The tower was old. It was covered in moss and mottled. It seemed to have gone through the passage of time and was in disrepair. It was crooked and could collapse at any time. This tower did not look like a piece of treasure. If it were not for the fact that he knew this was the Tower of Demon Subduing, Lu Li would not believe that there were so many powerful demons in the tower. There were people at the foot of the Tower of Demons Subduing, a large number, at least hundreds. They gathered together, but didn't intend to go into the tower. Some of them were sitting on the ground, which confused Lu Li. They couldn't see what was going on in the tower from the outside. What was there to see? The 3 warriors led the crowd toward the Tower of Demon Subduing. Many people were checking with psychic power. Lu Li noticed that many psychic powers were locked on him. He was puzzled. This punk is so weak, and he dares to go to the Tower of Demon Subduing? This is going to be fun. Do you think I should bet that he will die in 1 day or in 3? I think it is safe. Bet that he cannot pass the first level. The odds are not high, but it is a sure win. I'm going to bet 100 divine origin gold. I will bet that he will die in 1 day. Small capital and big profits. Some people gathered together and began to discuss. Although their voices were very soft, Uncle Li heard them. Seeing that Lu Li was confused, Uncle Li explained, "I think they have nothing better to do. Someone is betting on the life and death of the challenger, and the others are here to place their bets." Oh, Lu Li was surprised. Then he grinned and said to Uncle Li, "Uncle Li, how about we go and have a bet as well? Let's bet all our divine sources that I can pass the first level. At that time, it will really be a huge profit." Uncle Li rolled his eyes and said, "Are you sure?" "No." Chapter 1836. The Tower of Demon Confinement was not tall. There were 5 levels in total, and the Tower of Demon Confinement was only more than 30 feet in total. It seemed to be built with bricks, like a 1,000-year-old tower in the mortal world. If it were not for the fact that he knew it was the Tower of Demon Confinement, Lu Li would have smashed it into pieces. The Tower of Demon Confinement had only one door. The door was open. It was dark inside. Nothing could be seen. Luli used psychic power to check, but he could not see anything inside. The warrior named Lu said, "You can go in now. You can only stay in there for 10 days. After 10 days, you will be teleported out automatically. There is a door at the end of the first level. Once you enter that door, you will be teleported out even if you have passed the first level. Okay, go in now." With that said, many warriors were eager to get into action. They put on relic armors and rushed in with relic weapons in their hands. As soon as they entered the door, they disappeared. Uncle Lee and Luli did not go in right away. Uncle Lee had heard from the onlookers nearby that someone had placed bets. Even Uncle Lee himself had been placed. Luli had the most bets. The dealer was a red-haired old man. He was strong. He must be at the peak of the second tribulation realm. Uncle Lee and Luli looked at each other. Luli handed over a ring. Uncle Lee walked over to the old man, pointed to Luli, and said, "Can I bet on him?" The brown-haired old man said emotionlessly, "Yes, as long as the value of divine origin gold is less than 10,000. Uncle Lee asked, "If he passes the first level, how much is one piece of divine origin gold?" The warriors nearby were stunned. Someone was betting that Luli could pass the first level. Did he think they were blind? Many of them had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Their abilities might not be the best, but they had sharp eyes. Luli was young, and his breath of life could not lie. Luli had only passed one heavenly tribulation, which was obvious. Therefore, no matter how strong Luli was, it would be impressive if he could fight against the second tribulation realm god. It was difficult for an average second tribulation realm god to pass the first level. The odds were almost zero for Luli. The brown-haired old man replied to Uncle Lee soon, "If he passes the first level, the odds are 30 to 1. What? The crowd went into an uproar. Nobody had bet on Luli passing the second level, so they didn't know the odds. He didn't expect the brown-haired old man to give such high odds. If he really won, then he would be able to make a huge profit. "All right, I have 3 pieces of divine origin metal here. I'll bet all of them." Uncle Lee took out 3 interspatial rings and handed them over. Those were all the divine sources he and Luli had. They acquired some divine sources from some warriors they killed at sea. Anyway, the divine origin was useless now, so Uncle Lee went all out. "All right." The brown-haired old man took out a piece of paper and a jade talisman. He handed it over and said, "This great one is called Old Long. Many people in Heavenly Cloud Mountain know this great one. I live in Green Moon Peak. If you win, you can find me later to cash it out. Well, the prerequisite is that you also have to come out alive." "All right." Uncle Lee put away. He was not worried that the old man would cheat him of his divine origin gold. There was definitely no problem with the integrity of the person who could be the banker here. Otherwise, he would have caused a huge commotion a long time ago. "Go." Uncle Lee walked over to Luli, and they rushed toward the Tower of Demon Imprisonment. At the gate, Uncle Lee grabbed Luli's shoulder. He didn't want to be separated from Luli. Ha. Seeing this, people outside sneered. Uncle Lee didn't know what was going on yet. Everyone would be separated after they entered the Tower of Demon Imprisonment. One must rely on himself. Otherwise, a person who had passed 4 floors could lead a group of people to pass 2 or 3 floors easily. "I will bet a piece of divine origin gold that this punk can pass the first floor," a middle-aged warrior suddenly said. Many people turned to look at him. This man grinned and said, "Just for fun. It doesn't matter if we lose. What if he really can make it?" Many people's eyes glowed. It was a good deal to bet on 30 pieces of divine origin gold. There was always a chance. Many people were tempted. More and more people placed their bets. But they only bet on 1 piece of divine origin gold. Their divine origin gold was not something that fell from the sky. It was purely a hope. Ha. I hope this punk dies in one day. Many people were excited. They had bet a lot of divine origin gold on Luli. They all looked at the Black Gate with anticipation. Once someone died, the Black Gate would show the scene before his death. That was why so many people were gambling. They could know the result immediately. It was exciting. After a white glare, Luli found himself in a barren land. Where's Uncle Lee? Luli's eyes flickered with surprise. Just now, Uncle Lee grabbed his shoulder. How come Uncle Lee was gone when he was teleported in? This is strange. Luli looked around quickly. This was clearly a small world. The sky was dim, and there was a faint yellow glow, which darkened the entire world. It was spooky and creepy. Luli appeared on a small path. The path meandered forward with no end in sight. There was nothing but withered and lush weeds. However, Luli felt there was some danger in the weeds. He had an intuition that if he wanted to pass the first level, he had to keep moving along this path. If he walked through the weeds, he might die a miserable death. Buzzing, Luli released the worms of the void at once, and he released 10 billion at once. The worms covered an area with a radius of several miles around him. In this way, once something invisible came close, it would have to go through the worms of the void before it could attack him. Uncle Lee, how did you find out? Luli was speechless. Uncle Lee went to inquire about the situation, but he found nothing. Luli had thought that with Uncle Lee, at least they could look out for each other. Luli and Uncle Lee parted ways. Luli knew nothing about the Tower of Monsters. He was in the dark and was afraid that he could be killed if he was not careful. Let's play it safe. If this doesn't work, I'll be teleported out in 10 days. Luli thought about it and took out the mountain. He wanted to go in and then fly forward with the worms of the void. However, the mountain glowed and he could not go in. He took out the wicked bead and the same thing happened. Luli did not dare to move. He used psychic power to check, but found nothing. It was eerily quiet. There was no smell of living beings. Luli knew nothing about the situation here, except that there were demons here. Or demons. Luli had no idea. Let's go and see. Since I am here, I should at least try. An hour later, Luli carried the cold blade saber and walked forward with his teeth clenched. He wanted to see what kind of demon could kill him in one day. 100 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet. It was eerily quiet. Luli could only hear his own footsteps and his heartbeat. Not only was it quiet, but there was also no sign of life. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Another 300 feet later, a ray of red light suddenly appeared in the sky, casting a strange light on the surroundings. The weeds began to move as if the wind was blowing across a paddy field. What surprised Luli was that when he used psychic power to check, there was still no sign of life or monsters. It was as if the weeds were moving on their own. Wait! Chapter 1837. There was no presence, no sound, not even the presence of a living being. The dark shadows were approaching silently. The dark shadows seemed to be souls, and their bodies were still moving. They looked like humans but had green faces and fangs, which was quite horrifying. The sky was glaring in red, and the grasses were glowing in yellow. From the grasses came out many dark shadows. Anyone would feel creeped out by this scene. Luli was not afraid of ghosts. He did not believe that ghosts existed in this world. They were just remnant souls. If the living were not afraid, then why should he be afraid of remnant souls after death? Luli could just destroy them. Luli acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy because those shadows did not seem to be remnant souls. They were more like something between a physical entity and an illusion. In this aspect, they were similar to the worms of the void. This type of monster was the most difficult to deal with and kill. If Luli could not kill the monsters, he would be in trouble once he was surrounded. Luli stopped and took the initiative to retreat. There weren't many monsters at the moment, only a dozen or so. Luli must find a way to kill them, or else he would not be able to move forward. Whoosh, those monsters floated over. They were small in size, similar to human dwarfs. They had feet, but they were floating. Therefore, they looked no different from ghosts. Their mouths kept opening and closing without making any sound, which made them even more horrifying. The blood-red glow in the sky intertwined with the yellow glow down below, adding to the creepiness. Go! Luli controlled tens of millions of worms of the void to sweep over. If the worms of the void could eat the shadows, then everything would be fine. Luli could go all the way and pass the first level easily. Clearly, he was overthinking The worms of the void flew over and pierced through the shadows. The shadows were merely illusions, and the worms of the void could not attack them. Boy, Luli released the ghost slayer. A ray of sword light whooshed over. The ray of sword light made 3 turns in the sky and landed on a shadow. That shadow was motionless. Clearly, it was suppressed by the might in heaven and earth. But it was merely suppressed. The ray of sword light whooshed out from the shadow and landed on the grasses. The grasses were shredded and a bottomless ravine was left on the ground. The shadows were approaching quickly. Luli had to step back. He slapped twice and released Space Twist. The ripples in space spread out but passed through the shadows as well. The shadows could not hurt them. Divine energy, the Slayer's move, the mountain, and the rain of swords. Luli tried all the skills he knew, but none of them could kill the shadows. Luli had stepped back. Behind him was a mountain wall. He had nowhere to go, unless he flew up and went around it. The sky was strange. Luli did not have the courage. He was thinking quickly, trying to come to think of a way to deal. If these were all illusions, then would the soul attack be able to injure them? Luli was not particularly good at soul attacks. He had learned some in the mortal world, and his soul strength was not bad at the moment. He gave a try. A small golden knife shot out from his forehead and attacked a black shadow that was charging at him. Whoosh! As Luli had expected, the golden knife pierced through the shadow without inflicting any harm. Luli complained to himself. Uncle Lee was not reliable. He didn't even know the attributes of the monsters when he went to gather information. So many people had come to the first level. They must know the monsters here. At the very least, they must have a way to solve the problem. The shadows were coming from 3 directions. Their speed was about the same as Luli's. It was too late to dodge. Luli had to wait for them to come closer. He had to figure out a way to fight back by observing their attack patterns. Swish, swish, with some noises, the phantoms reached at Luli with their sharp claws. Luli's soul trembled when he saw 3 or 4 claws glowing in a dark glow. He was exaggerating. The shadows were between a physical entity and an illusion. They could change between the two. At the moment, their claws were glowing in a dark glow. They had become physical entities. When they attacked Luli, there was a shrill sound in the air. Okay, at this moment, Luli felt more confident. He swung his saber and swept at the claws. At the same time, he ordered the worms of the void to gnaw off the claws. Bang! Luli's saber landed on the claws. It was as if he was hitting a piece of chaos. There were some sparks, and the saber bounced off. The claws were only scratched a little. The defense was strong. The worms of the void began to move. They approached the claws and began to chew. However, the claws were too hard. The worms of the void managed to make some holes in the claws after a while. But all they managed to do was bite off some skin. Bang, bang, bang. The claws landed on Luli. Even though Luli was wearing a supreme relic armor, the armor was torn apart like a piece of paper. Luli was crushed. Luli's chest, arms, thighs, and back were scratched in 4 or 5 places. Whoosh! Luli rolled over on the ground and ran to the left while staying close to the ground. If he didn't run, he would be scratched to death. However, he had only run for a dozen feet when he found himself in the weeds. Luli stopped. He sensed a fatal danger in his soul. There must be some kind of danger lurking in the weeds. There might be some powerful inhibition formations. Or, if he dared to step into the weeds, he might alarm more powerful demons. Whoosh! Amidst the sparks, he made a decision. His body drew an arc as he leaped up and rushed forward on the small path. But there were 3 shadows over there. As soon as he dashed over, 3 claws came at him. Swish! Luli released the Slayer's Ghost Slash. This time, it was effective. The ray of sword light landed on one of the claws and tore it apart. However, he was scratched by another 2 claws. 2 more wounds were added to his body. His physical body was fine. He had absorbed so many thunderbolts. In the old days, he would have been torn into pieces. His physical body should be comparable to an average Second Tribulation heaven god. Regular attacks could not tear his physical body apart. Worms of the void, gnaw, gnaw. Luli ordered the worms of the void. There were so many of them. Even if they could only gnaw off some fur, the number of worms of the void could gnaw off the claws. What? Luli used psychic power to check the worms of the void not far away. He wanted to know what was going on, but he noticed that some of the worms of the void had stopped moving. They were glowing in a dark light. Luli wondered what they were doing. Are they poisoned? Are there toxins in the bodies of these demons? Luli had this thought. The shadows were coming at him. He had no time to think. He had to release the Slayer's ghost slash while trying his best to dodge. He could not go into the weeds on the sides. He could not go too far in case more demons would be alarmed. He could not fly too high. Luli tried his best to move around in the narrow space nearby. He kept releasing the Slayer's ghost slash and dodging. Something that made him feel hopeless happened. A few fiendish demons had their claws chopped off by him, but after a while, these broken claws actually grew out again. Luli had dozens of wounds on his body. Some of them were so deep that his bones could be seen. Although this injury was nothing, it was just a flesh wound. But as time went on, his wounds would get worse and his body would weaken. In the end, he would be clawed to death by the demons and become their food. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.